why.
12 of my ducks. At least one of you better get third place.
Yeah.
Welcome to Chicago Live. I think we need Terrence Lee to just commentate the entirety of the Chicago Ducky Derby. Let's go ahead and take a live look at that. We're going to sort of keep you up to date on what's going on. If you missed it, we are just moments away from splashdown. This is the Chicago Ducky Derby. 85,000 rubber ducks are set to splash into the Chicago River today. It is the 21st annual Chicago Ducky Derby. Of course, it all benefits Special Olympics Illinois. The race begins technically usually at 1. They usually wait a couple of minutes for splashdown, which will be off the Columbus Street Bridge. All of this, what will happen is they'll dump all of the ducks into the river. They kind of rush them along until the duck ambassador, one of the amazing Special Olympics athletes, plucks one of the ducks out, the winning duck, and that person, whoever adopted that duck, whoever paid a couple of bucks and got that assigned number, there's a number on the bottom of each duck, then you get to walk home with a prize. So this is really cool. If you didn't know, the Chicago Ducky Derby, it is one of the largest fundraising events for Special Olympics Illinois. It's such a fantastic site. This year features more than 85,000. I think they said they bumped it up to about 88,000 whenever we talked with them a little bit earlier on the loop. It is such an incredible way to not just raise money for Special Olympics, but also with each duck adoption just being $10. It's such a great way to bring so much awareness to the athletes. I've had the great joy, the great pleasure of being out there for more than 10 years. I've been out there with those guys and gals and got to spend a lot of time with all the athletes. So many of the athletes come in, year out to say hello. So right now, I guarantee you, there are people lined up and down the river. You can't see it because we're zoomed in on the truck right now, but if you can kind of take a look at the truck is just filled with ducks. And I got to tell you, I've climbed into the back of those things before, and it is packed to the brim. It's such an amazing sight. You're going to see, if you can kind of see in the distance. So right now, let's see. Yeah, okay. So right now we're looking at the Michigan Avenue Bridge. So just east of that is the Columbus Bridge. That's the one that we're going to be looking at, and you're going to be able to see once they like I said, they normally wait till about 1:04. I know we always say 1 o'clock, but it tends to be about 1:04. And what's going to happen is right now, one of the ambassadors, along with his or her family and a lot of the people with Special Olympics Illinois, they're next to a big lever, and they're going to pull the lever, and then they're going to open up the trucks, and all of the ducks are going to splash down. Now listen, I've had over the years lots of people reach out to me that just see the image of the ducks going into the river, and they say, I can't believe you guys are putting all those plastic ducks or rubber ducks into the river. I didn't think this needed to be said, but I can tell you, all of them get scooped out. All of them get scooped out. It's just they keep them in a narrow lane, and they all get scooped out. Everyone ends up fine. All the ducks are retrieved. We should just be about 15 seconds away. Like I said, just about 1:04, they were looking for splashdown. Again, an amazing way to not just raise money, but for awareness of Special Olympics Illinois. They do so many things. We've done a lot with them here at Fox 32 over the years. In addition to being out there for the Ducky Derby, I can tell you we've gone out to Soldier Field. I have done the Polar Plunge many times to help support Special Olympics Illinois. Here's what I can tell you. I much more enjoy being out there. Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. 85,000 rubber duckies all splashing down into the river. Now, I saw one or two get caught on the ledge. I can tell you, I've seen that in years past. The folks with Special Olympics and with the trucks, they'll come over, they'll toss them in. So, T. Lee, don't worry. I know those were probably the two that you adopted. They are all now going to make their way west. They're going to be kind of funneled into a little area. They're going to go down sort of a little path in the river, and then the Special Olympics ambassador is going to pluck the winning duck out of the, they say 85,000. I think they said they bumped it up to about 88,000. That's the kind of support that they get, not just from people in Chicago, around our area, but really around the country. And so it's really just a very cool sight to see. It attracts thousands upon thousands of people. It's always so great in the years we've been out there in the past. People seeing it for the first time. You got families out there that make their way out to see it. And of course, all of the athletes from Special Olympics Illinois coming out there. So you can see they're going to try to get them into that. Yeah, there's that little path that's kind of roped off. They're going to kind of rope them all in. And as you can see, everyone taking videos, taking pictures. And, you know, because of the technology we use, that does affect our ability to be able to go live from the river. So there we have it. The 21st annual Chicago Ducky Derby, all benefiting Special Olympics Illinois. If you didn't have a chance to adopt a duck, there are still plenty of opportunities of different ways that you can help support Special Olympics Illinois, an amazing organization. We do a lot with them. I've been very proud to have worked with them over the years and spent some time with the athletes. So we're happy to be able to get that on Chicago Live, but much more to come right here on the show. There's a lot that's going to be happening over the next couple of hours, so you don't want to change that channel. Don't go anywhere. It's 106. Chicago Live rolls on when we come back.
Hey, we're the Law Brothers.
Welcome back. 108 on Chicago Live. This is a story that we've been following since the very beginning. Earlier in July, Magdalena Jablonska, 48-year-old U.S. Marine veteran from Des Plaines, killed when an intoxicated boater traveling at very high rate of speed slammed into her family's boat on the Fox River near McHenry. The suspect faces reckless homicide and aggravated DUI charges. We're going to bring in Louis Cairo, attorney with GWC Injury Lawyers. A press conference was held a little bit earlier today, right, Louis? Tell us a little bit about where things stand right now.
Okay. Yeah, you know, the incident just happened on the 25th, so we're only a couple weeks away, but we've done quite a bit of investigation. The police have done a really good job investigating. The state's attorney's office has been investigating. We've been in contact with the state's attorney, who's indicated she's going to actually handle this case personally rather than assigning it to an ASA, which is pretty typical. It's an incredibly high-profile case for so many different reasons. I mean, obviously, a Marine died.
Sure.
an individual died, an aunt, a sister, a fiance died. But what's so significant is on the Fox River, the whole chain of lakes. If you've ever been on it, Jake, this is where thousands of people a day on the weekends go. And this is a recreational haven. It's like we take our kids to Disney, right? It's where the families go and party and they have fun and they enjoy themselves. This is where families with boats, people that like the water, they go there to enjoy the serenity of the water, the peacefulness. And this is an area where there's no speed limits, which is unfortunate for a lot of people. And there's been people that are behind this effort to get speed limits on the chain of lakes for years. This particular area where the accident occurred is where you go from a no speed limit to a no wake zone. Now, no wake zone means 5 miles an hour.
Sure.
No wake at all. And so you have somebody who is, we've talked to so many people. I gotten emails and text messages from people with Ring cameras. We live on the chain. This is our address. This is the boat going by 10 minutes before the accident. This is the boat the day before. I took off my Ring camera. This guy's flying 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour on the lake.
So he had a history of doing this?
Yes, he's, as I understand, he's going through a divorce, which is, I can understand why, but we've been advised that he is living in the marina where he keeps his boat lodged in an apartment up above the office building there. So he's on his boat a lot. That's kind of like his home away from home. And the people that live on the lake say every weekend, and even during the week, we see this boat screaming. And you know the boat because it's black and it has these bright fluorescent orange 500 horsepower motors. And Stevenson Crane Company is a company it's a family business owned by his mother. And he was the vice president of Stevenson Crane. So great advertisement, right? It really stands out. Those are their colors, and it's screaming around the lake. So you really know when that boat comes by, you hear it, you see it, and you know, yep, that's the same guy. So, you know, what happened in this incident, you know, you could look at this and say, well, here, it's like a rear ender. I mean, boat's driving slow. He obviously doesn't see the boat. He rear ends it. That's an open and shut, pretty much a no-brainer. But when you get into the weeds here a little bit, you realize it's a wealthy family, a wealthy kid. He's got 3 DUIs in his history. He's got reckless driving in his history. He's got in Florida boating, reckless or DUI, I'm not sure which one it is. He's got quite the history. And his family business always is there, the family, whatever it is, to bail him out whenever he gets into trouble. He goes and he buys a $450-something thousand boat for cash. No loan. Puts down the money. He's got like the fastest, most amazing boat on the chain.
How old is he?
How old is the guy?
Yeah.
I think he's 48 years old.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know what a pontoon boat is, right?
I do.
You know what a cigarette boat is, right? So when you get a cigarette boat, you got the need for speed.
Sure.
It's like buying a Ferrari or Porsche and putting it on the asphalt.
My family was a pontoon boat.
Okay. Well, I've got a bass boat for fishing that goes 80 miles an hour. Never driven that fast.
Sure.
But I can do it. I've got a pontoon boat at my house in Florida that goes 40 miles an hour.
Sure.
And my wife and I, we go putting around in there with our grandkids, and we just have a great time. You buy a pontoon boat for family time. It's a party boat. Sure. It's not a cigarette boat. This one is, in essence, a cigarette boat in the sense that it has 1,500 horsepower. And what's important, if you know anything about boating, when you start off from standing still, when you take off, the boat always comes up. The bow comes way high, and then as you gain speed, it planes out, and the boat rides flat, just flat like it's sitting still in the water. But in the chain of lakes, when you get to these little areas, there's only 2.5 feet of water there. So when you're in 2.5 feet of water and you have these 500 horsepower motors that are probably 3 feet or more underneath the boat, that's a problem. So what do? You have to trim up your motors. You trim the motors up so they don't hit the bottom, they don't hit the ground, right? So they're up higher. Well, when you trim it up, where's the propeller pushing the boat? It's pushing the motor downward. What happens to the bow of the boat, Jake? It goes up in the air. So when you look at some of these videos that are being posted on social media of this boat going back and forth, I mean, the front end's 3-4 feet out of the water. Well, no boat planes out that way. You plane out, you're flat. And when you're flat, you know what you see? You see everything in front of you. But when your bow's up in the air, you know what you're looking at? You're looking at the bow of your boat.
Right.
And you don't see an 7.5 foot wide runabout speedboat with a outboarder motor, 2 people sitting in there. You don't see it in front of you. And you're moving, when you're going 80 miles an hour, you're going over 100 feet a second.
Right.
I mean, 3 seconds, you go the whole length of a football field.
That's what I say, especially on a lake.
Yeah.
Luis, I hate to cut you off, but I know this is going to be a story that we're going to continue to talk about. Like you said, unfortunately, this tragedy just happened. the end of last month, so we're going to continue to talk about this. Thank you for taking the time to kind of break everything down, but we'll be in touch and we'll continue to hear more about it.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Louis Cairo, attorney with GWC Injury Lawyers. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
I'm Cassie Carlson.
Welcome back. 117 on Chicago Live. You know, one of the great things about being a part of the Fox family is you get to kind of check in with all of the other cities, all the other markets, all the other shows, and sometimes just be able to say, hey, what's going on? What's up? We're bringing back Ronya. We love her. We've had her on the show before. She was talking World Cup with us. I've never gotten to chat with you before, so thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I found out I was chatting with you today, and I said, I cannot wait. We have so much to talk about. I've heard so much about you. And you know what? Chicago's my second home, so let's get started.
I'm really nervous about the whole I've heard so much about you, because that could go in a bunch of different directions. First of all right, you got to tell me first, what's going on in Detroit?
Well, you know, Detroit right now, we have a lot happening, actually. This week is a busy week for us. There are a lot of events, including this Ribs and R&B Music Festival at Hart Plaza. I don't know if you've been to Hart Plaza, but it's a very beautiful outdoor area right on the Detroit riverfront. A lot of people head down there in the summer. It's one of those areas where people gather. They go to festivals, they test out the food trucks, and it's so fun. But let me tell you, it's not even so much this week that I'm excited about, it's next week, because the Woodward Dream Cruise is next week. And that's when a whole bunch of hot classic cars roll through Woodward from all over the country. And I'm a car fanatic, so I cannot wait. I'm ready, and I'm you know, I don't have the nice car to go down and show a hot classic car, but I'm
not with that attitude. You don't.
You know, I need to hop in with somebody. Do you have a nice car? Do you have a nice classic car I can ride?
Listen, here's what I'm going to tell you, is that my truck moves. That's all that matters. It gets me from A to B, and you know what? The girlfriend's happy in the front seat. The dogs are happy in the back seat. Yeah. That's all I need. So I'm good to go. I'm going to be honest with you. I love the idea of the classic car. Did you have a dream car growing up? Did you have sort of like the poster on the wall, or at least one in your mind?
I've always wanted a Camaro or a Firebird. In the 80s, that was like the car, right? And so that's always been my thing. Of course, Mustang too. I remember my uncle would always pick me up in his Mustang with the T-tops. So I think it was just growing up and being part of the whole Motor City. And so Woodward Dream Cruise next week brings in thousands of people nationwide. And it's just a good way to just celebrate what the Motor City has built over all these decades. So yeah, it's a pretty hot weekend here in Detroit coming up.
I love that. Also, it's just a reminder to anyone watching here in Chicago, Detroit, 4-hour drive. If you hear this and you think that sounds great, I want to get my car, 4 hours down the road. I was telling you about this during the commercial break. On our end, literally just, let me do the math, 16 minutes ago, we just dumped over 85,000 ducks in the Chicago River. It's called the Chicago Ducky Derby. And it's such an amazing event. It is all to raise money for Special Olympics Illinois. So the way it works is that everyone kind of adopts a duck for $10. Every duck has a little number on the bottom. They send you however many ducks you get. They tell you what number you got. They dump all of these ducks off of a bridge, out of a big dump truck. They splash down into the water. It's a great visual, the yellow ducks splashing down into the water, and then they kind of sort of shove them along a certain way, and one of the amazing Special Olympics athletes plucks one of the ducks out of the river, and that's declared the winning duck. Whoever wins, you get like a truck, or you get but then there are a bunch of other winners. You get cash, you get Cubs tickets. It's an amazing event. I'm usually out there with them every year. It's such a cool opportunity, not just to raise money for Special Olympics Illinois, but also it brings so much awareness for Special. And I got to be honest with you, I've also done, they have a lot of events around here. I've done the polar plunge, where I've jumped into the Lake Michigan, I think in February. I'm still thawing out. It's August. I think I'm just now starting to thaw out. But they do a lot of really great stuff. They do this thing called Cop on a Roof, where we go out to like a Dunkin' Donuts, and they get cops on different Dunkin' Donuts, and they get people out there, and they talk to them. An amazing opportunity to raise awareness and money for Special Olympics, a cause that's near and dear to our hearts here at Fox 32. But that one in particular, just a couple blocks away over by the river, is such a really cool thing to see.
I mean, it sounds so amazing. And this is the same river that turns green, right?
Yes, it is.
St. Patty's Day.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Funny enough, did you know
there's a lot happening?
There's a lot going on in the river. We got all kind of cruises. We've got lots going on. There's all kind of fun stuff happening at any given moment. Even in the winter, it's always cool to kind of watch it sometimes freeze over. Even that's a cool visual. But yeah, around the Saturday nearest St. Patrick's Day, they dye the river green. It's the Plumbers Union. And it's always really fun because what they call the dye, it's a secret formula that they've never revealed what it is. They say it is safe. It's safe for all the fish and all the river wildlife, but it's orange when it goes in. And there's some kind of chemical reaction that when this orange liquid goes into the Chicago River, and all of a sudden the Chicago River turns a really cool fluorescent green color that lasts for a couple of days. It's actually a very cool thing to see up close and in person if you've never been out here to see it.
You know, I've never been on St. Patty's Day, but, you know, I think that's going to be on the bucket list for sure. And, you know, I want to ask you, Jake, since I have you on the phone, it's beautiful outside here. I'm sure it's very nice out there as well. Have you guys kind of been cleared now with the wildfire smoke that was coming through like the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's all temporary, right? It's all, you know, talking to our team of meteorologists here, as I'm sure you guys do with Fox in Detroit. Yeah. We're always at the mercy of one good gust of wind, right? It's always, you know, because these wildfires, they're continuing to burn, and it all just depends on what direction the wind is blowing, and depending on what other. Listen, I'm clearly not a meteorologist, so I'm going to talk about this in the least meteorological way possible. But you know, talking to our team here, you know, yes, for a couple of days it was rough, and you know, we were even hosting an animal shelter fundraiser in this outdoor area that we had to bring inside because of how bad the air quality was. So yeah, it was touch and go for a couple of days. Knock on wood, it cleared out. But, every single day, we're kind of waking up and thinking, is tomorrow going to be the day where the smoke comes back? We've been dealing with a weird summer. As I checked in with our meteorologist yesterday, and I asked him, I don't know, I know 4 hours the weather can be different on opposite sides of the lake, but the weather here in the summer, this summer kind of sucked weather-wise, so I'm hoping that we can at least get some nice beach days for just, within in the final 2 months of the summer.
Just to rub it in a little bit, Jake, I mean, we were almost like 90 yesterday, so I'm sorry.
Honestly, that's
we had
I love 90. I love 90. I would rather it be 105 than 5. I would rather it be very hot than very cold. That's always my thing. I wanted to ask you guys.
Here.
I'm very good friends, and actually just saw him a couple of weeks ago with someone with the Fox Detroit family, my man Lee Thomas. Big fan of Lee Thomas.
My best friend.
I'm a huge fan. I just saw Lee Thomas a couple of weeks back in New York. I always go for a nice, long, warm embrace that probably lasts 15 seconds too long. But one of the times that I saw him in Detroit about a year ago was alongside Fox's own Gordon Ramsay, because Gordon's season of Kitchen Nightmares has been going through the Midwest. He hit a couple of spots here in and around Chicago, but we went out to the set of whenever he was there in Detroit. But I don't think that episode has aired yet. I don't think that, but did you guys hear anything about that?
Not yet. I've seen some of the emails. I've missed a few, but I got to tell you, I mean, Lee Thomas, my literally best friend here at Fox 2, and so now I feel like I gotta ask him. He kind of walked away, but I'll find out.
Here's what I've been doing this a long time. I used to work at Fox in Houston, and whenever I started in the industry, and this is always kind of a cool thing to remind any sort of younger people that are getting into the industry, is that it's a very small industry. Ultimately, everyone ends up knowing everybody. And whenever I was a little know-nothing kid who started whenever I was 18, Lee Thomas swooped me up, took me under his wing, and showed me just how good the people of Detroit are, because he was one of the most welcoming people I've ever met, and at a time where a lot of people in the industry didn't really want to help out this little sniveling 18-year-old kid who had just been thrown into the industry. I feel like Lee Thomas was the epitome of sort of that Detroit spirit of like picking me up and saying, "You're with me. I got you. I'm gonna show you how to do this." And I feel like he really showed me just how great all the people of Detroit and the people at Fox 2 are.
I got to tell you, too, Jake, I feel the same way about Detroiters. We just have that in us to be supportive of people. When I lived on the West Coast, I didn't get that vibe. And being back here in the Midwest, and I'm sure Chicago feels the same way, I think we're a lot more welcoming. I don't know.
It's so funny. Likely I do a lot of the celebrity interviews and talk with a lot of people out of Hollywood. And the amount of times where when you talk with an actor or with a director and you say, I'm Jake Hamilton from Chicago, or I'm sure as Lee does, Lee Thomas out of Detroit, this light goes off where they just go, oh my God, like everyone has really just such an affinity for our area. And I think it's a testament to the hardworking people of our area, the amount of casting directors that I've spoken to that said when they're looking for an actor for a role, they'll look and see, is there anyone from our area on the list? And they'll kind of zero in on those because they said those people will bring it. They'll do the work. They know how to show up. They don't complain. They're not divas. They're not going to come rolling in with an entourage of 30 people. They're there. They're there to do the work, and they're there to do the best work possible. And I think that's really a nice commonality between our two cities.
It really is. That's what I love about us. And listen, on top of it all, it's summer. It's the best time to visit each other. So hopefully you're coming here. Hopefully Detroiters are coming out there. There's a lot happening. Actually, I know we ran out of time and we're almost over here. I do want to mention, I know you mentioned Gordon Ramsay. I'm supposed to talk to the owner of Sunda soon because we opened a Sunda here. Oh. And so I'm super excited about that. That's one of my favorites in Chicago. So I used to have to come there to eat Sunda.
Are you a foodie?
Now it's Detroit. Of course. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, listen, when you talk to Billy Deck, you gotta tell him that we say hi. Billy Deck's been on the show many times. But listen, I know you guys have amazing restaurants in Detroit. We've got some great ones here. Really quick, just because I'm the entertainment nerd here at the station, have you seen The Odyssey yet?
I have not, and I'm hoping this is the weekend. Have you?
Vernon, what do you talk to people about if you haven't seen The Odyssey?
know.
Don't tell
You know,
Lee Thomas
have
you
you-
haven't seen it yet. I've seen it twice.
I was busy with elections. You've heard what's going on here with the Senate race.
Listen, I would vote that you go see The Odyssey. That's my election.
Done. And we'll talk about it next week, hopefully, if I'm back on with you.
Listen, but no, you're absolutely right. I think you guys have had more than your fair share of all kinds of news going on. But this was so fun. I've never gotten to do this before. I hope that we get the chance to do it again. But this was so great. Thank you for taking the time to check in. Okay, here's the thing. I don't know when the next time we're doing this is, but if you come back and you have not seen The Odyssey, just lie. Just say, yeah, I saw it and it was great.
I'll get in trouble for that. I'm going to go watch it this weekend.
Okay.
We'll be back next week.
All right, tell Lee I say hello.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, take care. See you later.
Will do.
All right, guys, Chicago Live rolls on 1:30. We'll be right back.
I got hurt in a car.
Welcome back. 1:32 on Chicago Live. Lots to get to over the remainder of the show. Chicago residents now have a direct say in how the Chicago Park District spends $500,000 on park improvements. For the first time, the district is using participatory budgeting, allowing anyone over the age of 13 to vote on 4 funding priorities. We're going to check in with Carlos Ramirez Rosa, the CEO of the Chicago Park District, in just a moment. But here's a little bit of background on this. So the aspects that the Chicago residents will be able to vote on include accessibility and safety, recreation infrastructure, park amenities, or nature and beautification projects. Now, voting will be open through August 27th online and at Park District field houses. Officials say that the winning projects will be announced a little bit later this fall, and construction is expected to begin in spring of 2027. So this is going to be a really fascinating conversation we're going to be able to have with Carlos, again, CEO of the Chicago Park District. He's going to be joining us in just a moment. And I'm curious to find out if this could potentially change the way that these sort of decisions are made. Also, the idea that anyone over the age of 13 has a right to vote for this, because when you think about it, younger people have just as much a stake and what goes into a park, and oftentimes more so than adults do. They're oftentimes sometimes the ones that are using it more than we are. So again, Chicago residents will now have a direct say in how the Chicago Park District is going to spend $500,000 on park improvements. It's going to be through online voting through August 27th. You can do it online. You can do it at Park District field houses. And we're going to hear who the winning project is a little bit later this fall. And then construction is expected to begin in spring of 2027. So in just a moment, we're going to be talking with Carlos Ramirez Rosa, the CEO of the Chicago Park District. Carlos, are you with us? I don't think Carlos is with us yet. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty on our end, but we're going to find out more about this in the coming moments. Carlos, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, sir. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so first of all, tell us about, this is such a fascinating concept, allowing the people of Chicago to vote on improvements to the Park District and parks that they're going to be directly using. Can you tell us where this idea initially came from?
Yeah, so participatory budgeting actually started some decades ago in Latin America. It was a way to democratize local decision-making along budgets. And then it was brought to Chicago in 2008 by former Alderman Joe Moore at a ward level. So the notion was that a portion of the local capital infrastructure dollars to fix roads, to make improvements in every neighborhood would be decided by the local community. So this is the first ever citywide process. And we're so excited to bring it to the Chicago Park District. 95% plus of our annual capital budget goes towards maintenance, fixing the things that need to be fixed, the roof that's in the worst condition, the boiler that's broken. But we wanted to take a small portion of our budget and say, what more can we do? What are the types of improvements you'd like to see in your local park? And so earlier this year, we opened up the idea collection phase. Over 1,000 ideas were submitted from Chicagoans. And then our planning and construction department vetted those ideas. So we looked at those ideas to say, okay, is this something that's already being implemented? Right? So are we already making that fix? So that doesn't need to be voted on. Is this something that costs too much for the amount of money that's being allocated? We're not going to build a new field house with $500,000. And then once we knew which projects were actually feasible that could be implemented, we got down to a list of about 300 ideas at about 160 parks across the city. And we asked a committee of volunteers, park patrons, Chicago residents, representing each of the 3 regions of the district, North, Central, and South, to group those ideas into different ballot categories. We did not want people to have to fight over, which parks would see investments or which part of the city would see investment. So we created a ballot category, and that is what voters are now deciding. And you only have to be 13 years old to vote, and you can vote online or at your local park.
I want to touch on that. I love the idea that you guys opened it up to Chicago residents 13 and older. Stands to reason that they're going to be using, younger people are going to be using the parks just as much, if not more so, than anyone who's 33, 43, 53. Like, why was it important to you guys to open up voting to residents 13 years and older?
Well, our parks belong to everyone. They are such a wonderful, beautiful asset. And we have lots of programming for our teenagers. We're the largest employer of young people in the summer. We have 3,000 seasonal employees. 2,500 of them are between the ages of 16 and 24. On top of that, we do all different types of programs for our teenagers and for our young people. So whether you're an elder, a senior citizen, whether you're a young person, you belong in our parks and our parks belong to you. And so we wanted to make sure that this was not a rigid process that excluded people, but rather that invited them in. So we're asking the public to vote on 4 categories. Accessibility, public safety, and inclusion is one category. Recreation infrastructure like ball fields, sports, court rehabs is another category. Permanent fixtures and park amenities is a 3rd category. And then a 4th category is nature and beautification. So trees, pollinator gardens, nature play areas. Each of these categories has dozens of ideas that represent parks across the city. And so rather than saying, one park on the north side has to compete with a park on the south side, no, instead, these categories touch parks across the city of Chicago. And when you vote on that category, if you think that's the category that should be funded, you're voting to fund projects across the city.
I love that. So I think what is interesting is to touch on something that you just mentioned. Over 1,000 ideas were submitted by the people of Chicago. And I know you guys, for a lot of reasons, had to kind of narrow it down. But what does that tell you about how the people of Chicago are invested in their parks? That when you opened this up, you guys received over 1,000 ideas.
So it shows that people love their parks. We receive ideas every year for improvements at our parks. We have our annual budget town hall when we kick off our budget process in the fall. And we have folks that come out and share ideas, but this was a structured way to generate even more ideas and even more suggestions. So for example, let's say your idea doesn't fit within the parameters of this funding. Nonetheless, it's an idea that the park district now has, and it's an idea that can help inform how we're thinking about the future of our parks. So this is really about making sure that community engagement and public participation are at the core of our stewardship. And we look forward to continue to build on this into the future. So we're so proud that over 1,000 ideas were submitted. We're so happy that now Chicagoans get to vote on 4 categories that speak to 300 ideas across the district. And the category that gets the most votes, we will work to fund as many projects as possible within that category. But we're committed to at least 9 projects total, at least 3 in each region, north, central, and south.
And if someone's deeply invested in a particular thing that is open to voting, but maybe doesn't land the votes this time, if this is successful, and I have no reason to think it wouldn't be, does it stand to reason that you guys would do this kind of thing again in the future?
Absolutely. We want to continue to engage the public around park stewardship. We absolutely want to make sure that we continue to open up the door for public engagement and public participation. And the Chicago Park District has long been an innovator in public engagement. We created the Park Advisory Council process some years ago to make sure that local residents could serve as local park stewards. We think that that is an incredible way that local residents can have stewardship and ownership over their local parks. This is another way to do that, is to say, here's an opportunity for you to submit ideas and then to actually vote. And your vote really matters, because when you go out and vote, and you can vote either online at chicagoparkdistrict.com/PB, or you can vote at any one of our field houses. We have ballots in English and Spanish there, paper ballots you can fill out. But when you go out and vote, it's going to have a real impact, because real projects will get funded as a result of your participation.
Carlos, I would imagine a lot of people in the city of Chicago would like to have a say in how money gets spent over a variety of different aspects of this city. Have you heard from any other public officials around the city about this way of voting and of using this budget? Have you gotten any kind of feedback, positive or negative, in any form or fashion?
Yeah, so, I had the great honor and pleasure of serving as alderperson of Chicago's 35th Ward on the Northwest Side for 10 years. And throughout my tenure, we used a participatory budgeting process to allocate our local ward infrastructure dollars. A number of alder people across the city of Chicago use this approach as well. So we've heard from many Chicagoans that are familiar with the process, supportive of the process. And this is really a tried and true way of getting public engagement, public participation. So we're so excited to kick this process off citywide. We're working to get the word out via interviews with local press, via our Park District newsletter, via flyers posted at local parks, via the city billboards along the expressway. So we really want the public to know these parks belong to you. You belong in our parks, and you as the local park user have a real say in terms of what are the types of improvements that you'd like to see happen in the years to come.
So talk to me about how we actually vote. What's our window to be able to do it, and how do we go about doing it?
Yeah, so voting started July 27th. As of last week, we already had over 5,000 votes. We want thousands more. So you can vote online at chicagoparkdistrict.com/PB, as in participatory budgeting. You can also visit any one of our field houses. We have over 200 field houses across the city of Chicago. You can visit them. You'll see a small box at the front that says vote, and there'll be ballots there that you can fill out in English or Spanish. There's also flyers with QR codes at the local park, and you can scan that QR code. It'll take you to the website. You can vote there, or you can see a list of all of the 300 plus ideas. So if you're looking to see, well, are there parks near me that have projects that are up for a vote? And how do I know which category they're in? You can visit the website, chicagoparkdistrict.com, and see which categories include ideas for your local park.
Carlos, we know the people of Chicago can be very prideful when it comes to something that they want or something that they believe in. Have you noticed at all any Chicago residents, if they are particularly passionate about one of the options that you can vote for? Have you seen anyone sort of campaigning on behalf of any of the options?
I think that's part of the process, right? Is we want people to be engaged. We want people to be excited. And so many Chicagoans across the city submitted ideas for their parks. So it's natural and it's a good part of the process that now they're out there saying, hey, vote for this category. So, yeah, I've seen some local park advisory council leaders. I've seen some local park advisory councils put out communication to their neighbors, to local park residents saying, hey, our park has ideas that you can vote for under this category or under these categories, and now's the time to get out and vote. So it's all about participation. It's all about bringing Chicagoans together to be stewards of their local park.
When you hear 1,000 ideas, I'd imagine, I know you gave us a lot of reasons why certain ideas maybe weren't chosen over others, but I'd imagine that there were probably some really good ones that may have broken your heart a little bit to not be able to include just because you can't include everybody. Were there any in there that could be saved for another day, or that you kind of just stored in the back of your mind and thought, maybe not right now, but that's actually a good idea for the future?
Yeah, there are so many wonderful, that's a really great question. And there are so many wonderful ideas that were proposed. Aquatic centers, new field houses, state-of-the-art turf fields. Those are all wonderful amenities. And they cost millions of dollars. And so generally the money that the district spends on an annual basis for capital infrastructure improvements goes towards maintenance. Like I said earlier, the roof that is most in need of fixing, the boiler that's broken. And in order for us to do those longer, bigger projects, building a new field house, we often need a capital stack that requires funding from multiple different sources, whether that's the city of Chicago, the state government, or the federal government. And we're so lucky that Chicago is represented at all levels of government by people who want to invest in their local park, and that allows us to do more than we would with our limited budget. But those ideas that were submitted, they, just as you said, stay with us so that we can work on them for another day. Maybe the funding isn't there right now, but as we see these ideas come in from the public, it's another touch point and it's another data point that helps us think through what should we be looking to fund in the future, and how can we engage local elected officials to see if we can't tap into other sources of funding to get that idea done.
One of the things as someone who visits, parks a lot, my girlfriend and I, we walk our dogs around there and everything. I always take pride whenever I see the people of Chicago helping out in some form or fashion, whether it's picking up a piece of trash and throwing it into a trash can, or maybe a plant got knocked over and they'll pick it back up, and I feel like it's just a reminder, and I feel like this voting could very much increase that. It gives a sense of ownership. Whenever you give people the opportunity to have a say, it makes them feel like it's theirs, like it belongs to them. And then in that sense, maybe they're a little bit more likely to, because I'm sure you guys could use all the help you can get. You got a lot of people that work very hard to keep these parks clean, but we all use them. So it's all of our responsibility to kind of help out in any way we can.
That's right. These parks belong to the public. And the wonderful, beautiful gems that we've inherited today with those beautiful historic buildings, whether it's the Golden Dome in Garfield Park, whether it's the Garfield Park Conservatory, the top tourist attraction on the west side, whether it's the beautiful buildings that our museums are in. A lot of people don't realize this, but the museums in the parks, those are park buildings, park land. The Adler Planetarium was developed by the South Park Commissioners, one of the predecessors to the Chicago Park District. But these beautiful buildings, these beautiful landscapes, the Osaka Garden in Jackson Park, we are the stewards and we have inherited that beautiful treasure. And so it's up to all of us, every single Chicagoan, to take care of them, to cherish them, and to leave them better for the future. And so one way that we can do that is by bringing people together. We bring thousands of volunteers together for Earth Day every year in April. That's an annual event, an event that we've done for many years with an organization called Friends of the Parks. The Chicago Parks Foundation, another one of our great partners, has an event called It's Your Park Day, where they bring people together to clean up their parks and improve their parks. And then, of course, we have our park advisory councils. We have parents that take an active role in creating Little Leagues. There's so many wonderful partnerships that allow us to do even more programming in our parks. So yeah, these parks belong to the public. There's so many ways that Chicagoans already get involved in their local park. And this is now another way that you can get involved in your local park, is voting now through August 27th in our participatory budgeting process.
Carlos, before we let you go, one more time how people can vote, and then also, do we have a timeline for when things are voted for and voting is settled and decisions are made, when we can start seeing some of these put into action?
Yeah, so you can vote right now. It takes just a few seconds. www.chicagoparkdistrict.com. If you go there, you'll see Vote on PB, or you can go directly to the site, www.chicagoparkdistrict.com/P as in Peter, B as in Betsy. Or you can visit any one of our field houses across our parks. And if you visit those field houses during regular hours, you will find a ballot box there with a paper ballot, and you can fill that out. Voting will occur through August 27th. And then after that, we will count all of the votes. We will report publicly this fall the winning category. And then we'll start working on implementing as many projects as we can, but at least 9 projects across the city for these improvements in our parks. So implementation will begin later on this year, and construction, weather permitting, and project scope permitting will likely begin in the spring and the summer of next year.
Fantastic. Carlos Ramirez Rosa, CEO of the Chicago Park District. Carlos, thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. 151 Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back.
Good news.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. It's 1:54. Had a couple of things come through into the newsroom just over the course of that break. We want to take a live look to Litchfield Park in Arizona right now, where police are saying that unidentified human remains have been found buried in the backyard of a home in Litchfield Park. So the police are saying that they have been found as part of what they are describing as an initial persons investigation involving suspicious circumstances. The missing persons case is now being investigated as a homicide. So they say that the investigation began after family members requested a welfare check for the residents, a husband, wife, and their adult son. On Tuesday earlier this week, officers entered the home with assistance from a family member. They conducted a welfare check. During the welfare check, officers discovered indications that foul play may have occurred. What we are hearing is that police say that the case is being investigated as a homicide. Detectives believe that the adult son, identified as 27-year-old Matthew Flores, has, quote, fled the country and is considered an alleged suspect in the investigation. They say detectives believe Matthew fled the country prior to officers conducting the welfare check of the interior of the residence. Right now, they have not identified names of the family at the request of the family, and they don't know if the remains that were found on site are those of the husband and wife. The Avondale PD continuing to work with local agencies to recover the remains. Again, if you're just joining us, just into the newsroom out of Litchfield Park in Arizona, the police there say an unidentified human remains found buried in the backyard of a home, and it is part of a case that is now being investigated as a homicide. As more come in on this, we will keep you updated. Like I said, this just came in over the course of the break. We're getting the latest information, and we'll bring it to you as we have it. Let's switch gears for a minute. We're going to check in. Can we go to the other live picture that you were telling me about? I think we have live image at the space station. This is unbelievable that we have this. So this is just a live image of what's going on in the space station right now. I'm just continuously in awe of the fact that we're able to even just go live with them. I think that's absolutely incredible. NASA conducting the 96th U.S. spacewalk at the International Space Station. A couple of NASA astronauts conducting a spacewalk to install hardware to modify the International Space Station's electrical system. So you can kind of get a look at all the work that they're doing out there, but that is a live image from some of the astronauts at the International Space Station as they are doing everything to be able to be as safe as humanly possible as they conduct their 96th U.S. spacewalk to modify the space station's electrical system. So we have a lot more coming up over the next couple of hours of Chicago Live. When we come back in the next hour, we're going to be talking with some folks who are taking part in an after-school matters program this summer that includes a new volleyball initiative at the Obama Presidential Center. It's the Teen Action Lab volleyball program. Teaches young people from surrounding neighborhoods not only fundamentals of the sport, but also leadership, teamwork, and collaboration. We also have much more coming up throughout the show. Lauren is going to be joining us. Lauren Scafidi is going to be joining us to talk about the newest episode of her podcast, Not Live. We're going to bring meteorologist, my man JD, back in studio. We're going to be talking about the weather. I was looking at the future forecast that Caitlin Cody had up on the screen during the noon show today. And the amount of days that just had that thunderstorm graphic makes me, I got to ask JD, are we just in store for a wet and stormy next couple of days? And also, we're going to talk, oh, look, there it is. See, that's what, see? First of all, folks behind the scenes, I love you. You're amazing. But yeah, take a look at that. Starting Sunday, thunderstorms. But here's the thing is, as we often know, sometimes that means they're overnight. Sometimes that means they're in some area and not others. So we're going to check in JD and find out just what exactly that means. Also, we're going to talk with some folks who do some just a couple of blocks that way, do some of the boat tours along the river, and they've had to cancel some of the boat tours because the level is just getting too high and it's making it impossible for them to actually fit underneath the bridge. So we're going to find out what's going on there and the sort of adjustments that they've had to make to keep everyone safe. So like I said, lots more to come over the next couple hours here on Chicago Live. And as you just saw in this segment, things are continuously coming in during the break, and we will always keep you updated on the latest breaking news as we have it, as we can verify it. But for now, it is just about 2 o'clock. More to come as Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live 202. Before we get to our next guest, we're going to check in live on the Senate floor to find out what's going on. All right, looks like they're on a break right now. We're going to take a break in just a moment, but when we come back, we're going to talk with someone with After School Matters. Like I was saying, more than 12,000 Chicago teens taking part in a very cool After School Matters program. This summer includes a new volleyball initiative at the Obama Presidential Center. The Teen Action Lab volleyball program teaches young people from surrounding neighborhoods not only the fundamentals of the sport, but also leadership, teamwork, and collaboration. Taking a live look around the city, looking like it's a pretty decent looking day out there. But how long is that gonna last? I looked at the forecast into next week, Doesn't look great. We're going to find out exactly what that means, those little thunderstorm symbols that are on the 7-day forecast. We're going to bring JD up here and find out just what the heck is going on with the weather this summer in Chicago. We'll find out more, lots more to come as Chicago Live rolls on. We will be right back. Welcome back, 209 on Chicago Live. We are going to be going over to the Lindsay Clancy murder trial, listening in on day 8 of the trial. Let's listen in.
Your Honor, obviously, I don't have to belabor the obvious. This is a murder trial, very serious business, and we've all been working very hard on the discovery, which, as you can tell, is voluminous. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of state police interviews. And I mentioned, about with the government. They have cops. They have people going out and interviewing. They have videos. They have chemists. They have detectives. They have local cops. They want a cup of coffee. They can send 5 cops down the street to get one. I'm it, except for my son Patrick, who helps me out getting coffee, all right? And the reason I sound frustrated is that they are objecting 2 weeks ago because they need time to review, to cross-examine doctors on very basic items of evidence that are their items of evidence. Not one of those witnesses is adding or bringing anything new to the discovery, if you will. And not by way of excuse, but, I am a sole practitioner. In the past, May, June, July, in the past 3 months, I've had a murder, a rape, and 2 back-to-back federal trials that ended 1 week before we impaneled on this case. I have worked really hard to pull this case together with expert witnesses, civilian witnesses, private investigators been investigating. I provide everything to them as soon as I get it. And they have been doing the same with me. I haven't objected to one thing that they have offered. They put an AutoCAD, computer animated display disc on my desk last week. I didn't complain about it, run to you and try to exclude it. I said, fine, no problem, put it in my pile and move on. That's it. So to suggest that they need time to be able to cross-examine both, I've had trials with both of these prosecutors. They're both experienced. They're very, very familiar with the trial of major criminal cases. I feel that they're more than capable of being able to cross-examine, for example, number one, Dr. Volkovich, who is a board-certified emergency medicine physician. His report indicates that he has taken a look at South Shore Hospital. He's taken a look at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. He's taken a look at the photographs. That's their evidence. That's all he looked at. And all he's doing is basically what all of their South Shore doctors came in and testified to as to the nature of the injuries, in his opinion, the type of injury that she suffered, talking about the injuries to the right and left wrist as well as the neck. In his opinion, dealing with suicide attempts, that it's a legitimate suicide attempt. There's no secrets. There's nothing new that they have to prepare to cross-examine him on. Dr. Laposada is a doctor that is well known to most of us, and I've been using Dr. Laposada's fine services for the past decade or longer. I know that both of these attorneys are familiar with her. She's not bringing anything new to the table. She's bringing her opinion based upon their evidence as to the medical records, x-rays, all of the rest of the indicia of the injury that she suffered. Now, they're talking about Lindsay going out and hanging off of a window and then doing, like I said, the Spider-Man slide down the side of the house, apparently. Absolutely ridiculous. She dove out that window, she hit her head, and she suffered what Dr. Laposada refers to as a Jefferson fracture of the spine that is very, very, very typical for this type of an injury. When somebody dives into the shallow end of a pool, they get that injury, unfortunately. When somebody, kids are on a boat and they're drunk and one of them jumps off a mast into the shallow end of the water off of Cape Cod, they get that type of injury. Superman, when he gets thrown off the horse, 6 feet high, same injury. That's all. She's not bringing any esoteric theory to this case that they need time to prepare. Interestingly enough, the Brigham and Women's Hospital records do make reference to the Jefferson fracture, right from jump. She also assists me, as she always does, on autopsy photographs, any indicia of injuries, And it's her opinion that if they try to say that there are bruises to these little babies that were inflicted by her, they're absolutely wrong. And Dr. Laposada would indicate that these are consistent with either EMT, God bless those first responders, but they were in a panic and they're trying to take care of these kids and pick them up and run them up to their trucks and vehicles. So, and other, obviously, the interosseous injection into the legs, the shins, the thighs, all of these bruises are from medical intervention, not Lindsay Clancy. That's what she would testify to. That's it. They don't need time to prepare to cross-examine for that. Finally, I have Dr. Condi. Dr. Condi signed even better than a report. He signed an affidavit. And again, it's based upon medical records that we all have. Way back when this case first started, the government presented the case to the grand jury. First thing I said to Lindsay was sign a release. Let the government get all the medical records. We'll all have access to them. This case is obviously going to be predicated upon the medical records, psychiatric records. We signed every release. They got every document and had them into the grand jury. I got copies. They have copies. Condi would testify to the horrific, in his opinion, failure to comply with the standard of care that would govern psychiatrists, psychologists, Dr. Tufts, who's going to be testifying tomorrow, nurse practitioner Gelada, the other individual from the McLean Hospital, all records that they've had for years. So they don't need time to prepare for cross-examination. So weeks ago, counsel, after I gave them copies of all of these reports and affidavit, strike that, I'm sorry, the reports I just got, and I just sent them the affidavit from Condi they already have, I disclosed to them what my opinion would be of the opinions from these doctors that would be testifying, and the report carries that out. I suggest to the court that to strip Lindsay's ability to present evidence in support of her defense, number one, it would not be in the interest of justice. I'd like to hear a DA stand up and say, in the interest of justice in this case, because weeks ago we got this information and we're not prepared to testify, to cross-examine the testifying witnesses, I think even Your Honor would agree is a disingenuous argument. She came in and said to you, Rule 14 matters.
You're listening to day 8 of the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. We'll try to dip back into that maybe one more time before we wrap up the show today. But we're going to move on really quick because the river level has been rising a little bit, and it has had an impact on some of the tours and the water taxis and their ability to make it under the bridges. So we're going to bring in Andrew Sargis with Wendella Tours and Cruises. Andrew, thank you for taking the time, sir. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So first of all, just tell us, first of all, clearance-wise, what is it that you guys need to be able to get under the bridges as you're going under them?
So our water taxis and our tour vessels on the Chicago River, we have different drafts that range from about 16 to a little bit over 17 feet. And the bridges on the Chicago River, they vary in their height and their clearance from the river. The Michigan Avenue Bridge would be one of the lowest bridges. The bridge at Wells Street would be another one that is relatively low. And when we have excessive rainfall and excessive precipitation, like we did over the last week, there are times that the excess precipitation can flow into the Chicago River. And then what that will do is cause a rapid rise in the river, which will prevent our vessels from going over some of the bridges. And temporarily, we'll have to halt the water taxi transportation service. And sometimes we'll even have to halt the tours as well. So this is something that used to happen a lot more frequently before the reservoir was built south of the city to hold excess stormwater. That being said, it still happens, just not as often as it used to, but it did happen last week. It was a lot of rain. The river rose pretty rapidly, and it did force a grounding of our tours for about the entirety of the day Saturday.
So are you guys looking at it on a day-by-day basis and just saying, hey, when you get in on a Thursday morning, just looking at the river level and saying, hey, we got to cancel today? Or is it, I mean, and how quickly does the river go up and down whenever we're having this kind of rain?
Yeah, so usually we're able to anticipate if the rain is going to be so bad that it may negatively affect our operations. We have open lines of communication with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. We can monitor online what the river levels are doing. And a lot of times the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, they will intentionally lower the river level in anticipation of the rise that would be associated later on that day with the rainfall. What happens is we've seen that this reservoir south of the city has become pretty much filled to capacity over the last few weeks and months due to the rain, and that's given them a lot less of a cushion here to kind of play with these river levels. When we come in the morning, we are pretty much full steam ahead, and we react as things are happening. We're very conservative. Once we see that the river level is starting to rise, we know that it usually starts rising pretty quickly. We'll make a decision, like I said, pretty conservatively to kind of ground our taxis and tours. The last thing we want is the river level to rise so quickly and so fast that a boat may be caught in between bridges. That's something that's never happened because we've always anticipated and reacted and trained for this, but it could potentially happen if an operator were to try to push their luck, so to speak.
Are any of them grounded right now?
No, they're not grounded now. We saw on Saturday the river level rise multiple feet throughout the morning into the afternoon, and then we saw it decrease, and we were able to clear the bridges by about 6 p.m. So for the entirety of the day up until the evening, we weren't able to operate due to the rising river levels, but they did drop relatively quickly. That being said, we have in the past seen, especially before the reservoir was built, there were times the river would flood for multiple days, and there were sometimes they would even open the Chicago lock and temporarily re-reverse the Chicago River, where now the river is flowing into Lake Michigan, which of course is something that we don't want to happen. That brings a whole nother level of concerns. When the river is, when there is a so-called combined sewage overflow event, it creates a situation that it's not just rainwater that is entering the river, but also untreated sewage. It's really a last resort that is used to prevent the city streets from really backing up with rainwater and sewage.
Wait, how often does that happen?
So before that, once again, before this reservoir was built, how often did it happen? I would say, maybe monthly, maybe bi-monthly. Since this reservoir has been built, it is more rare. It happens a few times a year. It's usually not as excessive as it used to be, but it really speaks to the need for them to continue expanding capacity in this reservoir, because even one time a year is too much. I think we can all agree that we don't ever want there to be a situation where excess rainwater or sewage is going into the river.
So you're saying that in terms of the sewage going into the river, it does happen at least a couple of times a year.
It can still happen. Yep. Right now the storm water and the sewage is being taken out of the city in the same line, and when there is excessive rainfall, to prevent that sewage from backing up into the streets, it goes into this reservoir south of the city. But sometimes when it's at capacity, there still may be a need to release that excess storm and sewage into the river. Yes, it does still happen.
Without objection. Thank you,
far
Mr.
less
President.
than it used to.
Mr.
But
President,
yes,
I rise today to honor one of the greatest teams to ever wear the black and gold, the 1960 Missouri Tigers.
You can hear
they
something
finished
going on in the
11-0.
show right now.
They conquered the Big Eight. They defeated
Andrew, hold
the
on
Navy.
just a second. Guys, can you hear that in the booth? Okay. All right. Sorry, Andrew.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I was just more fascinated with the fact that this is a thing that happens, a couple of times a year, and I'm constantly seeing kayakers up and down the river. In terms of the boats that are coming, the cancellations happening on the day, and refunds, I'd imagine reschedules. Sometimes they're tourists, they can't do it. What's the attitude been when you basically have to tell people, listen, I don't think we can fit under the bridge?
Yeah, you have to offer everyone the ability to refund or reschedule. And if they're from out of town, then we are offering refunds. Even if they're from town, we're offering refunds. Some people do want to reschedule. They still want to get the boat ride in. But yeah, we do have to offer refunds. It's unfortunate. It's something that doesn't happen often. but certainly it's something that we deal with, and it's something that we deal with on this river. So we hope they continue to make progress expanding capacity, stormwater capacity in the reservoir south of the city, so that this happens less and less, because at the end of the day, as we've talked about, it's not really just about the business loss, but what's even worse is that there are still instances where sewage is going into the river.
Yeah, that's the one that I keep going back to. And what do you guys are you guys in direct communication with sort of that effort, or is it just something that you guys are hearing about and it clearly impacts you directly?
Yeah, well, it impacts us directly. In addition to not being able to go under the bridges, our older water taxis are raw water cooled. They draw in river water as a heat exchanger so that their engines don't overheat. And when there's microplastics and other things in the river, because of an overflow event, it prevents the ability to bring in this river water. You could have your vessels get clogged and the engines can overheat. So it does cause other issues as well. One thing it's important to note, though, is that because we have our Chicago Lock and our river is opening, there is water flow from the lake into the river, down the Chicago River and Sanitary Canal. So when this happens, when this combined sewage overflow happens, this sewage is fortunately not just sitting there. It does kind of get flushed down the river system. Still isn't good. But, this is something that it has happened, and it happens far less than it used to. You can imagine back in the early 2000s when there were huge rainfalls, the river would sometimes overflow for days. It'd be high for days, and the river quality would be very poor for days afterwards. Now it's a pretty acute situation. So it's a lot easier to deal with the aftermath of them.
Well, like you said, it's not even a thing you want to hear happening once a year, much less 2 or 3 times a year. Andrew, I'm going to ask you this question, just because in the past few, like I said, we're often seeing kayakers up and down. In addition to the tours, we see kayakers, and just within the past few years, there have been these highly publicized swims in the river. Yep. Would you swim in the Chicago River?
I would. I have unintentionally before. Back in the day, I've fallen in. I have not intentionally swam in the river, but I would. I wouldn't swim in the river adjacent to one of these overflow events. But I would if there were distance between them. And when there are events like the Big River Swim, they are testing the quality of this river. They have pretty strict standards for what's going to happen. And unfortunately, they would have to cancel the race if there was an overflow event right before the date of the river swim. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But I am pretty confident in saying that the river quality, it is not terrible. It is pretty good. It's improved dramatically. And once again, the lock opens, the lake water comes in, it brings this water down the waterway. So if there's distance between one of these overflow events and going into the river, I would say it is safe. So yeah, I would swim in the river if I had the safe opportunity to do so. It is illegal. But in a controlled environment like the Big River Swim, I am confident that absent an overflow event right before the event, it'll be safe to do this.
Is there a good way for someone to be updated or to know when these overflow events happen? I mean, like you said, it doesn't sound like they happen often, but it does sound like they happen. And I got to be honest with you, if that's a day that I happen to be deciding to kayak, maybe I'm going to not kayak that day. Is that public knowledge whenever something like that happens, or?
Yep, you can find the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District is disseminating this information. You can find it on their websites, on their social media channels. You could also follow the Friends of the Chicago River, which is a nonprofit dedicated to the health of the Chicago River. And they also will post information about combined sewage overflow events. And if anyone wants to help out in preventing these, if there are days of extremely heavy rainfall, you could help out by maybe running the dishwasher a little bit less, or maybe taking a shorter shower. Anything you can do to relieve more pressure on our sewage system. It might not seem like a lot, but it could potentially go a long way and prevent one of these overflow events from happening.
Fair enough. A lot to get to in this conversation. Andrew, we appreciate you taking the time. I always send people your way when I've got friends and family visiting town. We love what you guys do, and thank you for taking the time, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys, just about 2:30. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Just about 2:32 on Chicago Live. A Florida woman facing drug trafficking charges after deputies say she was pulled over for weaving on the road, blamed her driving on eating chicken wings. We're going to bring in Sheriff of Polk County, Florida, Sheriff Grady Judd. Sheriff Judd, thank you for taking the time, sir. I appreciate you.
It's wonderful to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Walk us through what deputies first observed that initially prompted the traffic stop.
Well, if you've ever been to Lake Wales, Florida, there's a road called Masterpiece that runs right in front of it. And our deputies were patrolling in the area of Bach Tower and Masterpiece Gardens, and we see this lady weaving all over the road. So we stop her, obviously, because she's not able to maintain her vehicle in a single lane of traffic. And when we do, we walk up and we said, "Ma'am, may we see your driver's license? And why are you weaving on the road?" And she says, "Well, I'm eating chicken wings." And about that time, we get this big whiff of marijuana coming out of her car. And we go, "Whoa, wait a minute. You're eating chicken wings and that's why you're weaving?" She said, "Yes." We said, "Well, what about that marijuana we smell?" And now she freaks out. So I'm wondering, do you eat chicken wings with one hand and smoke a doobie with the other? Or, let your knees do this driving? I mean, I don't know. So anyway, we tell her, "Ma'am, would you step out of the car, please?" And she said, "No, I can't do that." And she started crying, "Please let me go. Please let me go." And we go, "Ma'am, we just need to talk to you for a minute. Step out of the car." Well, she wouldn't step out of the car. So we had to take her out of the car. She really didn't fight with us. She just didn't want to get out of the car. And about that time, she blurts out, "Okay, it's in the pink bag in the back seat." So we look in the pink bag in the back seat, and she's got like a trafficking amount of methamphetamine and a lot of bags. And she's got like a pound of marijuana and a scale. I mean, this lady is like 59 years old and looks like she's 89 years old. I mean, life's not been good to her. So she ends up, instead of just a traffic citation for weaving on the road while eating your chicken wings, to a trafficking charge in methamphetamine and a possession with intent to sell on marijuana. And of course, we threw in resisting without violence just for good behavior.
Sheriff, how often does what starts as a routine traffic violation get turned up to 11? I mean, this started as, you started as just someone weaving on the road, and then it led to as you put it, a trafficking amount of meth. How often does that happen?
More often than you'd like to think. I mean, people do really stupid stuff, like I don't have a valid driver's license, so let me drink and drive so I draw attention to people. Or my favorite is, I don't have a valid driver's license, I'm already on probation, so let me go down and get my windows on my car tinted really, really dark so people can't see in. Well, there's one problem. That's against the law. So immediately law enforcement officers go, there's a violation. So you stop this person, which is just a ticket. You can't go to jail for a tint violation. And you find out, oh, the tint violation was just the big help me go to jail. Then you find out they're driving on a suspended license, they're on probation, they got marijuana in the car, and it happens just non-stop every day.
The initial woman that we're talking about, what kind of charges is she looking? I mean, obviously, I'd imagine that the weaving was one thing, the smoking marijuana was another. The trafficking amount of meth, I'd imagine, is probably what she's most concerned about. What sort of charges is she looking at?
Oh, that's a big deal. She's looking at someplace between a 3 and a 5-year minimum mandatory sentence for trafficking methamphetamine in the state of Florida. We take that very serious. The weaving on the road is a traffic ticket. The smoking of marijuana is, very minor. A fine, would be it the first time out, and that's what she had. But the reality, if you're going to carry a trafficking amount of drugs in your car, if you're going to carry a pound or two of marijuana and a lot of baggies to sell it at retail in your car, why in the world would you smoke marijuana and try to eat chicken wings and weave all over the road and draw attention to yourself? That's just crazy gone to seed.
Sheriff, I'm fascinated with, first of all, that her initial excuse was, forgive me, I was eating chicken wings. What are some of the wildest excuses you've heard over the years for even the most basic of traffic violations?
Well, that one comes in as one of the common ones. The other one was, well, I was changing clothes. Well, why are you changing clothes? Well, I've got to go to work and I'm in a hurry. Okay, that's reasonable. Everybody drives down the road at 90 miles an hour and changes clothes. The one we heard the other day is, why were you driving 120 on Interstate 4? I mean, that's like suicide. Well, I was thinking about buying this car. Well, you're going to have a long time to think about it because we're going to take you to the county jail for being a super speeder. You can't drive 120 miles an hour down the road. So you pick it, they have an excuse. Everybody has an excuse. But very rarely do we stop somebody and go, hey, it's on me, it's my fault. And when those folks just admit it and take responsibility, usually they get a break because they're so few and so far in between, and they're so honest. You go, hey, this dude's finally telling us the truth. Let's help him out a little bit.
Sheriff, I'm really fascinated. I know that there are so many levels of training and preparation that you put your deputies through to prepare themselves for a number of situations that they may encounter when they're out there trying to serve and protect. But I'd imagine that there are a million X factors that there is no preparation for. I'd imagine there's no line in the book of what to say when someone says, I was eating chicken wings. There's no clause of, okay, when someone says, I was changing clothes, this is how you respond. I mean, how do you prepare all of your deputies for just that unexpected X factor that you can't possibly even imagine it would ever happen?
First and foremost, we tell folks, trust but verify. don't believe that victims tell you the truth, suspects tell you the truth, witnesses tell you the truth, because a lot of the time they really don't. So you tell them always be suspicious. But really, the job is entertaining every day. Like the other day, we get a 911 call from this guy who tells us that he's got a dead woman in the car beside him. Well, that's of some curiosity to us of why you're driving around town with a dead woman. Well, when we find him, he was on Sleepy Hill Road, and he said he was on the side of the road when we found him. He said he was sleepy. I guess that's why he went to Sleepy Hill Road. Well, there was no dead woman in the car beside him. He said, well, he guessed he was having a nightmare. But then we find out he's got 3 outstanding warrants for failure to appear. So why do you, call 911 and tell us you got a dead woman in the car with you on Sleepy Hill Road because you're sleepy if you got outstanding warrants? Well, you do that because you're on meth. You're cranked out. But that's what we experience, and it's so much fun to hear all of the excuses. But it really, really enlightens us and makes our job easy when you call us with crazy stories, and we're already looking for you for outstanding warrants.
Sheriff, how many people out there in your area would not be behind bars if they just kept their mouth shut?
Half of them.
Half of them.
Yeah. It's like back in the day, I remember a guy owned a business in Lakeland, and I asked him one time, how many people work for you? And he said, about half of them. I said, well, about half of them wouldn't be in the county jail if they'd keep their mouth shut. The other half wouldn't be in the county jail if they behaved and didn't violate the law.
Sheriff, have you always been in Polk County?
Born and raised here.
I feel like you have got probably more stories than anyone that we've probably had on this show. And I like that the one of the words you used to describe the job is entertaining. Did you expect it to be this entertaining when you got into it?
Well, I learned early that it was. I got into the business because I always wanted to be in law enforcement. One day I wanted to be the sheriff, so I started at the bottom and worked my way up. So I got to start seeing these crazy things really, really early in life. And there's a lot of sad things we see. There's a lot of tragic things we see. We see a lot of stressful things. But hey, we see the funniest things in the world. And it's really entertaining when, like I stopped a guy one time and he was wearing women's clothes. And when I asked him, why are you wearing women's clothes? He said, well, I committed a burglary and y'all were chasing me, so I ran by a clothesline, which you don't see anymore. And the only thing there to change into to hide was women's clothes. So when we arrested him, not only did he get in trouble for the burglary, then we charged him with trespassing and stealing another lady's clothes off of her clothesline.
But I love that he led off with, I was committing a burglary, and then. I'd imagine you've got friends in law enforcement, maybe in other counties, maybe, in other areas around the country. Do they have similar stories like you, or are you the guy they go to when they need a good story?
Oh, no, they all have stories. Everyone who's ever worked in law enforcement has all kinds of stories about different things that occur. But I try to remember some of them. You can't remember all of them because it's almost daily. And I've got a lot of deputies that work for me, and I tell them, bring me the interesting stories, because they're out there day to day now. I'm busy doing all the things that a sheriff has to do, but I've got about 1,300 deputies that work for me, and so they keep me in funny stories every day.
All right. Sheriff Grady Judd, this has been a fascinating, very entertaining conversation. More than anything, sir, you and all your men and women out there, stay safe, all right?
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.
You too, sir. Take care. All right, guys, just about 2:44. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 46 on Chicago Live. We're going to bring in Larry Reed, who is an author and a historian, and we're going to bring up a question that is really sort of dominating newsways right now. Is socialism winning over Gen Z? Larry, you're saying that a lot of Americans lack sort of a basic understanding of the differences between sort of a free market capitalism and a state-run economic system. That big question, the one that we've got on the screen right there, where do you stand?
Well, unfortunately, it does seem as though socialism is winning over some Gen Z people, but I'm not so sure that what's winning them over is socialism or just the promises of socialism, because the two are very different. Socialism always promises the sky, but delivers disaster. So it's a sad commentary, perhaps, on popular understanding of what socialism really is, that people can actually say they're for it.
Why would you say socialism has become so popular with the younger generations?
I don't think that young people are being told what it really is. I think you ask the typical young person who expresses sympathy for it what it is, and you often hear, well, socialism is caring for people. It's giving them stuff. It's relieving them of responsibilities and concerns, or is just giving things away. But that's not what it is all about. What differentiates socialism from other isms on the political and economic spectrum is that socialism relies upon force. It is not a list of helpful tips for better living. It is impositions by government to rob Peter to pay Paul, to redistribute, to make people dependent upon politicians, and to force them into certain behaviors that government thinks is best for them.
But, you know, if you're talking about sort of Gen Z, they're not having it explained to them, does that inherently mean that there are older generations that also have a misunderstanding of it? Because if Gen Z is being taught incorrectly, that inherently means that they're being taught by someone who doesn't have an understanding of it.
Yeah, many of the teachers these days do not have an adequate understanding because they've been taught by quite often university professors who are very one-sided in their perspective on this. They come at it from a very pro-socialist perspective. And one of the hallmarks of socialist behavior is that you don't tell people the other side. You just, or you paint it in such crazy caricatures that it's not even halfway accurate.
How would you explain the difference? If you had all of Gen Z sitting in front of you, how would you explain it?
I would say if two Girl Scouts come to your door and they say, would you like to buy some cookies? And if you have the freedom to say yes or no, that's capitalism. But if the two Girl Scouts show up with a SWAT team behind them and they say, you're going to buy these cookies and you're going to pay for them, you're going to eat them and you're going to like them, that looks a lot more like socialism. The difference is basically the threat of force or the use of force to impose a set of ideas and policies on people who may object.
Have you seen this before in the past? Has there been sort of a surge in popularity in any kind of an economic belief by any particular generation in years past that you've seen in your experience?
Yeah, I think some of this does kind of come and go. We had a socialist surge early in the last century, and people like Eugene Debs ran for president on the socialist ticket. And, he didn't get a microscopic percentage of the vote. He got high single digits, as I recall, maybe some states even a little bit more. But then people saw the Soviet experiment and said, we don't want anything to do with that. And that's just another form of socialism. So this does come and go. And I would guess that maybe November will tell us an awful lot. How many of the candidates who won Democratic primaries on a socialist platform can actually carry the electorate in the fall? I suspect a lot of them are not going to make it.
I was just about to ask you, we've got a lot of elections that we're looking at in the coming months, in the coming years. How do you feel like this younger generation, who hasn't always necessarily been known to get out and vote, but how do you feel like this younger generation being influenced by, this presumed love of socialism, how that might affect the elections, not just in the immediate future, but in potentially the decades to come?
Well, in marginal districts, marginal states, or purple states, they could make a difference. But by the same token, I think they may also animate to get out to vote the people who don't want socialism, who do understand its sorry track record, and might not otherwise show up at the polls, but could be animated by this surge of socialism that they see among the electorate. So who knows how it's all going to play out. But I suspect that in the end, we'll come to our senses and realize that America doesn't have a successful history with socialism, and no other country does either.
You have a new book out, Born of Ideas. What inspired you to put pen to paper and start writing that?
I think the American story is just so unique in history, so powerful in its message. And of course, with the 250th anniversary, I thought this was a time when we might catch people's attention. I just think the story needs to be told and retold, that our founding generation, though far from perfect, took freedom and representative constitutional government further than any other generation anywhere in the world in all of history. And that's something worth celebrating endlessly.
All right. Thank you, sir. Larry Reed, author and historian. We appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys, just about 2:53, Chicago Live rolls on. We will be right back.
Attention. Do you live?
Chicago Live, welcome back. I am Lauren Scafidi, stepping in for Jake for just a couple of minutes to get you all caught up on all of the headlines that we're working on for our 4 o'clock show and when you join me at 5 o'clock tonight. Of course, we've got some heavy stuff to start. I promise we're going to end on a light note, just like we did yesterday. I will not break my promise. But let's start with what Brett Bragansky is covering. Really, really tough story. If you have heard us talking about Magdalena Jablonska, yeah, it's been a big story since July 25th. That is when she was killed on the Fox River her while she was on a boat. So just really, really tough story. That crash also hurt her fiance. Her family attorney announced a wrongful death lawsuit today. So that was the big story taking up most of the morning and into this afternoon, too. So the person driving the boat is charged with aggravated DUI and reckless homicide after prosecutors say he was going really, really fast on the Fox River. They say he was going about 80 miles an hour. And keep in mind, that is in a no-wake zone. So her family says that they really just want people to remember Magdalena for who she was before this accident, before her name was in the news. Her little sister says that she is a role model, she is a best friend, and she is a second mom. So Brett Bagansky was at that press conference this morning. He's going to bring us a little bit more on that. We also heard from that fiance for the first time, too, and we're talking about who else could be held liable here. Maybe the restaurant that this driver was at before this happened, maybe the garage that he ended up pulling into. So Brett's going to break all of that down. Joni is talking about a Lockport smash and grab and some others that happened overnight. This is a story that we cover time and time again. And you think about the impact that this has, not just for the business who is experiencing this, but for other businesses in the area, too, who are on edge after something like this happens. And people just really not wanting to come to this area hearing about something like this. So Joni's going to be covering that. I think it sounds like we're also going to be sending her to that Essex Data Center meeting that's happening a little bit later, which is a story that Brett has also been covering quite a bit. So Joni's got a lot on her plate tonight. And Casey is talking about some unhappiness, you could say, that unfolded at the National Sports Collectors Convention that was in Rosemont over the weekend. Basically, people showed up thinking that they were going to get to do one thing, and then that didn't end up happening. So people who were there say that they couldn't do the same day grading that they had expected. Their cards were instead kept, and they're going to be mailed back to them. Now, this is a really big deal because these cards aren't just, $1 or $2. These are really, really expensive. It looks like they're worth thousands of dollars, and they're now not being held by their owner, and they're getting put through the mail. So people are really not happy about that. So Casey is going to talk to the owner of Elite Sports Cards, who can offer just some perspective on what was supposed to happen, why it didn't happen, why these cards are worth so much money. He was actually there and he witnessed this whole thing firsthand. So he's going to have a really good perspective on that from Casey Cronus' story later today. We're also talking about some boat tours that weren't able to happen within the last week because the river levels were the Chicago River level was so high. So Emily is going to have a little bit more on that when you join us at 4 and 5. Of course, we're at Bears Mini Camp. Come on, Devin is there as well as Cassie. And then I also want to end on a happy note, like I said I would. We're talking about the Not Live podcast. This has been my baby for the last couple of weeks here. Today we are not live with Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. So you see him, in so many oh, here's our video. Yeah, wonderful. This is the podcast that you can see. It is out now. But, you see him talking about a lot of serious stuff, and we just kind of put all of that aside, and we talked about the things that he doesn't normally get to talk about. You might not know that he was named Time Magazine's on the list for the top 100 most influential people in the world. He's so humble about it, so I asked him a little bit about that. I know. We also talked about goldfish, not the kind that you eat, but the kind that you can win at a carnival, the real thing. His family apparently has a knack for winning these things. So he told me a little bit about that and why they no longer have the goldfish anymore. You might have also noticed in that video that he wears a lot of bracelets on both of his wrists. So naturally, I noticed that and I asked him about it. And he said that he gets those from his kids. He says that, ever since they were little, his kids have been making these homemade bracelets for them. So he very proudly wears them. And he says he only takes them off if they happen to come off, right? Like if he's taking off a shirt or something and it rips off the bracelet, but he still keeps them. He puts them all in a drawer. So I thought that was really sweet. So you get to hear about him just being a dad, right? Not Cook County Sheriff, but just being Tom Dart. I also asked him to rate a couple of things, 1 to 10. I asked him to rate red light cameras. I asked him to rate dibs and people who don't turn on their turn signal. He had a lot to say about that one. So you can catch that episode of Not Live out right now on Fox Chicago's YouTube page, on our website, on our app, and of course, Spotify. That is just a little taste of what we've got coming up at 4 and 5. Our reporters are working so hard right now, so you'll see all of that when you join us later for the news. But let's get back to Chicago Live.
Welcome back. Just after 3:03 on Chicago Live, December 21st marks the anniversary of one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in history, the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Scotland. The 1988 explosion killed 270 people, including 243 passengers, 16 crew members, and 11 people on the ground. Among the victims was William Mack, whose brother Richard Mack continues to remember his life and seek justice for those lost. A new limited series, The Bombing of Pan Am 103, examines the investigation, the search for answers, and the lasting impact on victims' families nearly 4 decades later. We welcome Richard Mack onto the show. Mr. Mack, thank you for taking the time, sir. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Can you just start out telling me a little bit about your brother William? I'd love to hear about him.
Well, he was a puppeteer, and he got taken right out of college by the Muppets. And he worked for them for a long time, and then he went off on his own and performed around the world.
And that day of the bombing, what do you remember about that day?
That's a very long story that we don't have time to go into, but we didn't know he was on the flight. So I had to call Pan Am, and from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight, there was no word. And it was hard to do. So eventually we got the word, and we were looking for not just my brother, but his friend, Elizabeth, who were both on the flight. And Pam Stout came back and said, oh, and we were also looking for my wife's cousin, who was in the military and might have been on the flight. And Pam Stout came back on at midnight and said, well, 2 out of 3. That was the point of view for Pan Am. They hadn't experienced anything like this, and I get it, but they could have been a lot nicer.
Talk to me about the limited series that you were behind, and where the idea for this came from, and obviously we're talking nearly 4 decades. How difficult it's been to get the information, the answers, or anything you need to pull something like this together.
Well, it did take us a long time to get answers. I mean, we're still looking at somebody going to trial that made the bomb in about 3 weeks. So we're still fighting. And first of all, I had nothing to do with this film. I just happened to, be involved only because my brother was on the flight. But they did talk to a lot of family members. They talked to a lot of investigators. They talked to a lot of investigators on both sides of the aisle. So the film is really factual, which many of them have not been, and gets to the point that the Libyans did this, and it was the biggest terrorist act against the United States at the time.
What if you mentioned other past films not being factual? What have other past films about this gotten wrong?
Well, some of them claim that it was the Palestinians, because early on there was some theory that was them. And as we all know, some people still believe that, but it's because people sometimes don't look at the facts.
I want to talk about, like I said, it's been nearly 40 years, but you said that there's still events that are going on today. You mentioned something, it happening in 3 weeks, the trial coming up. What is that balance between, I don't want to say moving on. Moving on is not the right term, but what is the balance between staying involved, being a part of this, and then also making sure that you remember to live your life?
Well, that's a good question. And for me personally, I became part of the family group early on and was on their board of directors. And it's a big group. I mean, when we gathered at Arlington Cemetery for the first anniversary, the first anniversary of the cairn that the Scottish government gave us, there were roughly 5,000 people there. So you can imagine 270 people with all their families. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. And we were involved in Washington all the time from day one, pushing for the truth, getting the commission together to look into it. We changed the Aviation Security Act. We didn't help write it, but we pushed it. And we testified in Congress. We did all of that stuff. For me personally, after I had been the president of the board for a few years in the mid-90s, there were things here at home that I had to get back to, including my daughter's health and my own job. And because I was spending a lot of time in Washington and in New York with the family group. So at some point, things happen in life and you go, I've got to get back to what I need to do. Now, you're correct. It's not a closure. It's just the next chapter in this whole saga. And I don't know that it'll ever end. And that's just life.
You mentioned the family group. How important has that been, not just in terms of, the numbers, in terms of the pressure that you're able to put to get the answers that you want, but also to just be able to rely on each other? How important has that family group been?
That's been very, very important. Everybody that came to those meetings, there was always time for emotional support as well. And that was a big thing for a lot of people.
What are the questions that you still want answered today?
At this point, I think we all know who did it, so I don't necessarily have any questions on that part of it. We just don't want to go backwards on any aviation security efforts. So they're keeping the pressure on there, and as things keep going, we've still got a guy that goes to every aviation security meeting.
I was wondering, obviously Pan Am's not really a working airline anymore. Is it harder to get information from an airline that no longer exists? Are there still records kept by Pan Am? Like, how is new information from Pan Am coming about?
I don't think there is any new information from Pan Am. I don't know anything. They were never helpful. They put out their own investigation that was totally false. And if you've seen the film, you know that they talk about that in the film, that they were just trying to buy influence so they wouldn't have to pay the people on the plane's families. They would be off the hook. And that gives you an idea of where they were coming from.
How much, I've mentioned, obviously, we're approaching 4 decades. How much of your role now, because there are generations, younger generations that maybe have never heard of this before. Maybe this is the first time they're hearing of it. Maybe they need to be educated on what happened. How much of your role has shifted into that of an educator and maybe, letting younger generations know about this thing that happened?
The part that I want to emphasize to younger generations is that if you have a view that needs to be brought forward, there is a way to change things in this country, and it's by gathering people together and making changes. It's possible. My kids have grown up seeing me do that, so they believe it, and they're very active in doing things like that. So that's what I want to tell people is change can happen. It's not something where you just sit back and go, oh, what are we going to do about that? You can do something. One's vote.
Where can people see this, the film? Where can people see this limited series?
It's on Netflix. It's a 6-part series.
And, I began the segment asking about your brother. And the reason I always try to sort of ask stories to bring up fun, great stories about people that have passed, because I'm a big believer of that sentiment that people die twice. They die in their physical form, and then the second time is when people stop talking about them. So I'm a big believer of continuing to just have conversations about the people that we lost. Do you have a favorite story about your brother that when you're sitting around with family, sitting around with friends, that you say, okay, guys, you got to hear this story?
I don't think there's just one story. There is one overall feeling, and that was that he was the funniest guy in the world. And he did that through puppetry as well, because his main thing was going to all these festivals and doing a whole night of theater of 8 shows in 1 hour.
Wow.
I mean, Nicholas Nickleby in 8.5 minutes. And he had the darkest humor of anybody I've known. And actually, we put together, they were supposed to come on to Broadway or off Broadway that spring with a one-man show of him and all the puppets. And he had done a documentary on the life of these puppets. And then they were going to do the shows, and then in between, while he was changing the shows out, showing this documentary. I put that together in the end, and we did a world premiere that fall of '89. And that's still online. You can go to YouTube and find the Royal Short Company, An Evening with the RSC. And you'll see his show and what he did.
Richard Mack, I appreciate you taking the time, sir. Thank you for sharing stories about William, and keep us updated on, as obviously, as we mentioned, this is a story that continues to evolve. Hopefully we can have you back on to talk more.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, guys, just about 3:14, Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back.
Right now at Ashley.
Welcome back, 3:16 on Chicago Live. Author and journalist John Valiant says that the world is entering a new era of extreme wildfires, with large parts of the Northern Hemisphere facing increasingly dangerous fire conditions. He's the author of Fire Weather. We're going to bring him on live right now. John, thank you for taking the time. Obviously, a topic that is, just a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people were feeling in a physical sense, in that we had some of the worst air conditions or conditions of air here in the city of Chicago just because of the smoke. So this is a very topical part of conversation right now. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, good to be with you, Jake.
So you have written that we're entering a new century of fire. What does that mean exactly?
Well, we're seeing it kind of playing out in real time, especially this summer. And I really feel for Chicagoans because out on the West Coast where I live, we've been in some really heavy smoke too in the past couple of years. So believe me, we feel your pain. And what we're seeing this year, though, really from the Pacific coast all the way across Siberia, are elevated heat, rolling heat waves, and some really massive fires. And obviously, France and Spain and Southern Europe and North Africa, too, have been in the news lately with their massive fires. And like 1/3 people evacuated just in France and Spain. And then out west where I live, you all have been getting our smoke from the fires in Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. And Spokane, Washington, they've just lost 700 houses in Spokane, and then another couple hundred more in surrounding towns. And the fire weather, as it's called, hot, dry, windy weather, is really just ramping up. So we've got more in store, I'm sorry to say.
So when you say just ramping up, how much worse are we talking about?
Well, we're seeing these successive heat waves that are occurring with greater frequency. And we're also seeing higher temperatures. So that combination, just think of your own laundry. The hotter and windier it is, the faster it's going to dry. The same thing is going to happen to your local forests, and it's even making rivers and lakes and reservoirs evaporate more quickly. And we're really seeing that in Europe, where you have major rivers like the Danube, the Rhine. These are huge waterways that are now full of sandbars, and navigation has been interrupted because they are so low, historically low. So this is happening across the American West as well. And fire is a companion to those wind and heat events.
This might be a stupid question. Are today's wildfires at all different from the wildfires we were seeing decades ago?
Well, here's the thing, Jake. There have always been huge fires. What we're seeing now, though, is the frequency. So a mega fire, it's generally a fire considered to be over 100,000 acres. 30, 50 years ago, you might get one of those a decade in California. Now you get them every single year, sometimes several in a year. Right now, Utah is reporting the worst fire season in its history. Washington State is not far behind. British Columbia, a huge province north of the border in Canada, is also on pace to have its worst fire season in its history. So you see a pattern here. And then you look at Spain and France. These are big countries, no stranger to fire. And their presidents and fire officials are saying, these are the worst fires we have ever seen. And so this includes fire chiefs who have got 20, 30 years on the job, seeing things they've never seen before. And so that should tell us something about the state of fire across the Northern Hemisphere, that we really are in a period of change and intensification.
And, we were talking about sort of that ripple effect that a lot of these wildfires have. Like I said, we just experienced a couple of days of it when the smoke was here just a couple of weeks back. And, we were telling an entire city to basically not go outside if you don't have to. We were talking about, dangerous sort of smoke levels in terms of just, stepping outside. So talk to me about that ripple effect of, for someone who says, I don't live near places where there are big fires like that, so it doesn't affect me. This feels like the sort of thing that in some form or fashion, whether it's smoke, whether it's affecting an industry that has an impact on you, whether you live in vicinity of the fire or not, it's going to have some kind of an impact on you.
Jake, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, smoke in a way is the equal opportunity fire hazard. You can be, as you've seen in Chicago, you can be 1,000 miles away from the fire and still be choking, and it is a real hazard. The P2 particles, these are these kind of 2.5 micron particles that float around and give the smoke its brown or orange color, are really bad for you. They're seriously bad for your lungs. They're bad for your brain. Anybody with health respiratory issues should really take care. I strongly recommend an air purifier. And really listen to the warnings that officials issue. So this is no joke, and we're going to be seeing more of it.
So then, what is the answer? It sounds, like there's, I'm hearing a lot of reasons, and I'm hearing a lot of problems that are getting worse. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what the landscape is telling us basically is we have sort of we're out of balance. So we're really good at putting out fires. We have great wildfire fighters who have huge success rates. 80, 90, 95% of the fires that start are suppressed. But that is actually not how nature works. Nature without our interference, burns a lot more often, but also a lot less intensely. And so what we're getting are these huge buildups of fuel that then, because of added heat and drought, are burning with explosive intensity. We also have these massive beetle kill die-offs. So this is, thousands of acres of forest that are now standing dead. So that's standing firewood, waiting for the next fire. And the umbrella issue, though, Jake, is climate change. And anybody with a thermometer and a memory can understand that it is a lot hotter than it was when we were kids. And the winters are not as cold, and the nights are also warmer. And so that's really changing the way water is held on the landscape and the way fire moves across it. And when you build up CO2 and methane, as we have been doing by burning fossil fuels relentlessly for the past century and more, that allows the lower atmosphere to capture heat, the same way steam will in a hot kitchen. And so we've got more heat there. It heats the landscape up. It isn't really rocket science. It's not that complicated, but we are really feeling the effects now. And so reducing our emissions is a huge piece of this. And this is happening all over the world. But North America, Canada, and the United States in particular are still pretty gung-ho on fossil fuel development. And that increases the amount of CO2 that we have in our atmosphere. And that is the friend of fire. I'm sorry to say it.
So does it stand to reason, there are a lot of people that are working hard to reduce the impact of global warming, that one would affect the other? The lowering of global warming would have a direct impact on the number of these sort of very intense wildfires that we're seeing on a regular basis?
I think so, Jake, but it's, we're looking long term here. It took a couple hundred years to get CO2 and methane levels to the level they're at now. And we are people, individual countries and businesses and citizens and cities are working truly hard in many cases to lower their emissions. And that's working. It's absolutely measurable. But still, globally, CO2 is still rising. There are so many of us, and we are using so much fossil fuel energy that it's really hard to reverse that overnight. So this is a long-term effort, and it's going to take a while for the climate to catch up. But, one thing that was interesting to watch during that terrible period during COVID, when so many people were restricted in their movements, is CO2 emissions plummeted. There was so much less jet travel, so much less, fewer people going to work, that it reduced measurably the amount of CO2 being released into the air. So that's how quickly you can see changes. But it's going to take a while for the climate and the forests to catch up with that. And so, we're in this for decades, Jake. And so we also have to do things in our communities to harden them against the impacts of wildfire. And there's a lot of good information about that, and we can talk about that if you want.
John, we have to cut it short, unfortunately, but this has been a fascinating and an important conversation. I appreciate you taking the time, and I really hope we can have you back, because I have a feeling this is a conversation we're going to be needing to have for a while.
Well, I'm glad to see your air is a bit clearer in Chicago there, Jake. I hope it continues. Take care.
Thank you, sir. You too, sir. Appreciate you. All right, guys, bye-bye. Just about 3:27 on Chicago Live. We're going to dip in right now to the Oval Office where President Trump is
Pardon
speaking.
in 2 seconds, but I wasn't. It was after I left. They waited till after I left, and then they prosecuted these two people, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. So when you see that happen, you sort of say maybe he should. What he did is far more serious than a lot of crimes, frankly, but they prosecuted two people when nothing like that has ever taken place before.
President, on munitions, you posted overnight that the U.S. has a massive amount, and
right.
You denied that there were any shortages. There is a supplemental request for $21 billion to restock. So why is that request still there if there's
because we need more all the time. I mean, we need more. Look, we gave tremendous amount to Ukraine, the Biden people did, and they were given free of charge, no charge. No charge. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And fortunately, I built up so much during my term. I rebuilt the military and also loaded it up with a lot of stuff. And we have certain types of munitions that are very powerful, that we have unlimited, virtual unlimited supply. We have others where it's a little bit tighter, and we're getting them in on a daily basis. As you know, our defense companies are building more plants right now than at any point in history. They're building plants for the Patriots, for the Tomahawks, for everything. But we have certain types of munitions which are very, they may not be as accurate. They may not be, they're not as elite. We have elite too, but we're watching that very closely. But we have certain types which are very powerful and very good, and we have an unlimited supply, and so we're in great shape. But with that being said, we always want more. We have to have more. We have other things maybe come up. You maybe come up and maybe don't come up. Hopefully nothing else does come up. But we're in very good shape. We have literally massive amounts of ammunition. Yeah.
Mr. President, on Ukraine, President Zelensky says his country desperately needs long-range missiles or those Patriot missile batteries. Is that something that...
How did... Real.
Welcome back. 3:31 on Chicago Live. There are some guests that require no introduction. All they require is an arm gesture. There you go.
Yeah.
Look at that. Emily's here. How you doing?
Good, doing well.
I just got some amazing news. Emily is joining us Saturday morning on the show.
Yeah.
Myself, Brian Jackson, filling in for the illustrious Mark Strell.
Yes. This
How
will be my
are you
first.
feeling about morning show life?
Well, it's been a while. It's been about 7 years since I've been on a morning show. So we'll see if, I can break back Fun Emily out.
It's going to be fun. I'd imagine with 2 kids, you're used to like getting up and getting going and getting moving.
I'm used to getting up. I'm not used to getting up and getting moving.
You got coffee downstairs. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I don't do this in the morning.
Oh, it's fine.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes,
It's
right?
going to be great. It's a fun vibe. And like I was telling Emily, if you've never seen the Saturday or Sunday edition of Good Day Chicago, it's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
And it's much more, you're going to be doing much more than just the weather. You take part in a lot of the fun headlines. They give us a couple of stories that are kind of meant to get all of us talking.
Okay.
They usually start with a Florida man, and it's always a fun talker. I'm telling you, it's a good show.
I'm looking forward to it, and I will make
you're
sure.
not. Don't lie to the people. You are not looking forward to it.
I'm excited to anchor with you and Brian. I think it'll be a good time.
I'm telling you, it's going to be, you know.
We've never had that opportunity
I was just about to say, all these years of working under the same roof, we've done more on-air segments in the last 3 weeks than we've done in the last 3 years. Yeah, easily. I always, whenever I do the weather segments with you guys, I instantly like look out the window and go, "Oh, it looks all right."
Yeah.
Or "Oh, it looks terrible." Or,
as if everybody else can see
Yeah,
it
exactly. I always try to remind people at home, directly in front of us. I don't know if we can take the shot. So we're at the corner of Michigan and Lake. We've got a camera right on it. There it is. That's basically kind of what we're looking at. Look at the people.
Yeah, nice day out there. It is so humid, though. You know, if I had one gripe with Mother Nature today,
I haven't been outside yet.
Oh, it's so humid. So we have dew point temps right now that are up to 67, 68 degrees. And whenever dew points are that high, that's when it feels so sticky and just
but it's
icky out there.
summer,
It is, but we can do summer without the humidity. You know, it doesn't always have to be at this level. She's being a little extreme today.
Listen, I always try to, the perspective that I take is that there is going to be a day in February where we would kill for that weather right there.
We would, Mr. Optimism.
I'm trying
putting me in my place over here.
I'm trying to be one of those obnoxious golden retriever glasses half full kind of guy.
Well, you're doing well.
I'm doing my best.
Yes.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
I was just looking at the 7-day forecast.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of symbols next week that are the flashing thunderstorm.
Yes.
Now, are we talking like, look, there it is. Look at that. That's very dramatic.
Yes.
It's very dramatic. How serious is that?
So as of now, it looks like we're definitely going to be clouding things over for a good chunk of early next week. We're going to have kind of round after round after round of showers and thunderstorms. We're still a little far out to know whether or not this is going to be a sure bet severe weather deal that we're going to be dealing with, but we do appear to have at least some of the ingredients that we could need for severe storms. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think if you have plans, you know, if you're going to be out and about early next week, really pay attention to the forecast through the weekend as we get closer to those days, because we're going to have a better idea if these are just going to be your average thunderstorms coming through. But we're going to be stuck in this stormy weather pattern next week where, you know, every single day we're seeing those daily chances.
Okay, I've got a question for you.
Yep.
I've got a stupid question for you.
No stupid questions.
Pressure is it for you to decide what little symbol to put on each day? Because you put that thunderstorm symbol over Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and someone looks at that and says, well, it's just going to rain all day. But it may not.
I will say, prior to the 4 p.m., I'm going to change 2 of those symbols.
Oh,
so
really?
The Sunday and
Wait,
Monday.
Are we getting a preview?
You're getting a preview. I still have some forecast updates to be made here. But the Sunday and Monday, it's not going to rain all day.
Okay.
We have a decent chance of rain those days, but I still think that we're going to see partly sunny skies in between. So then you're going to see the icon that you see on Wednesday popping up onto Sunday and Monday, which, you know.
Starting at 4 o'clock?
Yeah, starting at 4 o'clock. So it'll make it feel a little nicer.
I don't
when you
know
look
why.
at the
I take
7-day.
great pride in the fact that we just did that in real time.
In real time. Yeah, so that's going to change.
So is there a lot of pressure of because again, one symbol often doesn't, especially in Chicago summer, doesn't summarize an entire day.
So I'm a big proponent of you have to listen to the words coming out of our mouth, right?
Sure.
So you can't just look at the screen and make your own decision on what it's going to be like, because if you did, then you'd just be looking at your phone weather, right?
That's exactly right.
And it doesn't tell the whole story.
Right.
Do you know how many times I have people tell me, well, my phone says this. Okay, this is why you need an interpreter, because just because you see that rain icon doesn't mean it's going to rain all day.
And also, the thing I always try to emphasize with that is Chicago's a big city.
Yeah.
You know, just because your phone says that it's going to rain, maybe it's not going to rain by you, or maybe it's not going to rain all day, or maybe it's going to rain at midnight while you're sleeping. But just because it's got the little, sprinkles, you scrap your entire plans.
Right. So it's our plan to, convey that to you.
Yeah. The only app that I would say to strongly listen to, the Fox 32 weather app.
Look at that plug.
Bam.
Yes.
You like that?
Yeah, it was good.
You like that?
So just kind of a recap of what's coming our way, though. Today, humid. Tomorrow's going to be humid.
Yep.
But we have that summer-like heat that's going to be coming back tomorrow. So we're going to be in the mid-80s. Today we're humid. It's not very hot, though. A lot of us are in the upper 70s, low 80s. Tomorrow we're going to be in the mid-80s, and then we'll kind of keep that going through the weekend. So a little bit warmer. Average for this time of the year is right around 84. So
okay. So listen, I know I've been complaining a lot about the weather this summer, but it stands to reason that we've still got a couple of weeks of summer weather to squeak out.
Yeah, we have plenty of time to still enjoy it, but it has been a very rainy summer.
The term I used yesterday when talking about the weather this summer is that it has sucked. This summer weather has sucked.
Well, and if you think back to May, I think May is a month that a lot of people really, really love around here because that's when we're typically consistently in the upper 60s to mid 70s.
Sure.
We missed out on that.
Yeah.
We missed out on the entire month of, kind of like our transition month into summer.
Yeah.
We went from jackets to hot.
Yeah. So we didn't get a spring.
We really didn't get a spring. We didn't get, those nice, beautiful days in the 70s. And I think for a lot of us in the Midwest, it's kind of what we live for, right? Before the humidity's in full swing. And, hopefully we'll make up for that this fall. I'm really hoping for it. It's fall and spring. Are they the most up in the we know we're going to get winter. There is no randomly, right. Oh, we didn't get a winter this year. We're going to get a winter. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, it might not be the summer we want, but we tend to get a summer too. Yeah.
Are fall and spring the most maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't seasons?
So I think with spring and fall, those are our transition seasons.
Sure.
They're usually really active. We have a lot of storms that are kind of coming through the Midwest region, coming through Chicagoland specifically. Yep. So that's when our forecasts and our weather patterns are a little more volatile, right? Yep. We have those big swings from warm days down to cold and windy and, that sleet and the rain. And that's just very normal around here. We can almost always guarantee on, somewhat of an active weather pattern in spring and fall around here, just based on where the jet stream is and how those storm systems kind of travel right along that.
So because it is so uncertain, are you just start drinking pumpkin spice lattes whenever? Yeah.
I never want to stop drinking it, right? Fall flavors, fall scents, they're the best, and they deserve to be year-round.
Have you started doing any of the fall things yet? It is August 6th.
This millennial is saving her money and not going out to get coffee recently.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been making it at home. We
bought candy corn.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice. I love candy corn.
It's the best, and I did start eating it.
You know what? It's time. Do
Why
it.
Why not? Live your life.
Yeah,
live
your best life.
Live your life. Let's see. So today's looking good.
Yeah.
It's going to be raining. Kind of coming. Okay, but it's and I think I've asked you this before, but it's never indicative of, because often people, they love to say, well, it was this kind of summer, therefore it's going to be this kind of winter.
No,
that's not a thing.
No, that's not a thing. Even at this point in the year, it's really hard to look forward and be like, this is the type of winter we're going to have. Typically, we're not making those predictions until closer to about October.
Yep.
Something that we are looking at from the Climate Prediction Center is El Nino.
Sure.
And a lot of the headlines right now in weather are just kind of buzzing with super El Nino. So what that is when the equatorial Pacific, the sea surface temperatures, when they're more than 2 degrees Celsius warmer than their 3-month average.
Sure.
That's kind of what we're knocking on the doorstep with, which means this year could be a super El Nino year. And El Nino years, typically in the winter time, we have drier and warmer conditions. So some people are going to rejoice about that, some people aren't. But the Climate Prediction Center, they're really not going as far as saying that this is going to last all the way through winter. They're saying this is more of a fall event, and we're going to have to see how it evolves and if it sticks around for winter. But if it does, we have a chance of seeing less snow and warmer conditions.
I feel like people wouldn't necessarily scoff at that. So yeah, you said that could impact fall. What does that make fall look like for us then?
For us, I think it's going to be just warmer and drier. So, we might be stuck in that weather pattern where it feels a little more like summer. So
all the people that are looking to break out their cool, cute little jackets,
you might have to wait
and walk down a crisp street, drinking their PSLs, eating their candy corn,
crunching on leaves.
Does that inherently imply, as we talk about sometimes those transitional seasons, that sometimes they legitimately just get skipped over? Does that mean that people that are excited about fall, that it could be like our spring just was, a very skipped over season?
Very possible, especially if El Nino really does kind of take hold, because that's a global weather impactor.
Yeah.
So it's a global phenomenon that we end up dealing with when El Nino kind of comes up, and with it being such a strong one, we definitely could see impacts right here at home.
All right, if you're watching this and you're thinking, all those fun, nerdy questions Jake was asking, I need to see more of that. Emily's going to be on the show on Saturday morning, Good Day Chicago. She never does the morning show. It's like whenever you see one of the Avengers, it's never in the Avengers, be a part of the Avengers. It's really cool.
I wonder if it'll be a whole new version of Emily that hasn't existed in a while.
Honestly, we're all excited to find out.
I'm going to find out.
I feel like it's going to be one of the situations where I'm going to be afraid to be too
People will be like, good morning.
Because I'm like a roll in the newsroom, good morning kind of guy. and I feel like I'm going to...
You know what? I will say, no matter the attitude, though, it's checked at the door.
Fair.
So,
Fair.
You'll probably end up getting the same, Emily.
Fair enough. All right, Emily, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us as always. 3:40, just about 3:43. Chicago Live rolls on. We'll be right back.
Does knee pain...
Welcome back. 3:45 on Chicago Live. Just about 15 minutes before we get to Fox 32 News at 4 with T and Anita. But for now, senior hunger is impacting communities across Chicago, and Meals on Wheels Chicago is launching the Feed a Neighbor Fund to help meet the growing need. We're going to bring in Corey Morris, the Director of Community Impact for Meals on Wheels. Corey, thank you for taking the time, sir. I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, Jake. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Tell us a little bit about this program.
Feed a Neighbor Fund was launched last month, actually in June, and it's a way for us to help support our neighbors. I'm a Chicagoan, I live in Humboldt Park, and it's a way to engage with your senior community, neighbors, and hopefully contribute to a monthly fund that we've set up.
Why has this need gotten, obviously, unfortunately there is always, it seems like there's a need, but why has this need increased recently?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things that are contributing to that. Stagnant funding from a federal level. Funding's been flat for about 3 years now, and a rapidly growing senior population, coupled with just a rise in cost of anything just to deliver the food, to purchase the foods. I think right now it's just so many contributing factors.
You've mentioned a $47 a month donation, and that's a number that could actually make a huge difference. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, it could make a huge difference. $47 is what we found that a lot of the seniors have to live on a week after fixed expenses. So imagine $47 and you go to the grocery store, and this is everything from food to, let's say you had to buy a tube of toothpaste or anything like that. A lot of these items could just wipe out your budget, right? So, Meals on Wheels helps bridge that with our home delivered meal program in our pantry. If you sign up for the Feed Your Neighbor Fund at $47 a week or a month, that could help us match and help us reach more seniors and make a bigger impact.
Meals on Wheels, it's much more than just rolling up and dropping off food. There's an interaction to it that's also crucial. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, our home delivery meal program is great. We have about 13,000 seniors enrolled, and then we're not just delivering food, right? Food gets us to the door, but once we get there and we're able to, knock, that creates a wellness check. That creates human connection with seniors that, unfortunately, I think 84% of them, that's the only person they're going to see all week. We did have a few seniors, because of the budget constraints, had to get cut back from, deliveries 5 days a week to 3. So right there, that's just detrimental to, your physical, emotional health, not having to see somebody and interact. So that's huge. And just that cut in food is just, it's dangerous.
For someone that says, listen, $47, it's not a lot, but it also, to a lot of people, that is a lot, a month. Are there other ways that people can help?
Yeah, and we can help on any sort of level, right? So $47 is a number that we would that we kind of created as sort of the benchmark, but any amount will do. It does make a big impact, and it doesn't just help us buy food. It helps us, support some of the other programs. So you can give monthly and sign up for the Feed a Neighbor Fund. You could do a one-time gift, or if you went to the website and you could actually just set whatever is in the budget that you can afford.
And I'd imagine, we talked about sort of this rising need, this problem that seems to be growing. It's growing all over the city of Chicago, probably growing all over the country, I would imagine, not isolated to any one given area of a state, a country, a city.
Yeah, it is. And Chicago does have a very large senior population. I think we're the third biggest city in America, right? And I think our senior population of 65 and older is growing at a very rapid rate. So the need is growing. Unfortunately, the funding isn't keeping up. So it is this is why we're calling on our neighbors in the Chicago community to help contribute to this fund, because, hunger is next door in every neighborhood that we live in. And, unfortunately, you don't see it because these people, these seniors and the vulnerable can't leave their house. And so it's a hidden epidemic, and we want to make sure that we're able to get to the doors and check on as many people as we can.
And tell us a little bit more about how people can get involved, the different ways, or just find more information.
Yeah, you can go to our website. It's MOWC.org. MOWC.org. To get to the funding page, it's MOWC.org/support. But that'll tell you everything you need to know about the Feed a Neighbor Fund, and you can sign up to become a donor there.
Fantastic. Is anything else coming up we need to be made aware of?
No, we're always out in the community. We have a monthly food pantry, the nearest Chicago pantry at the Central West Senior Center. We'd love to see everybody come out and see the good impact that we're making in the community, help us distribute food. That's a really special day. You can find out more about that on our website as well, on our events calendar. And
as we head into the holiday season, I'd imagine many more opportunities for need and many more opportunities for help that you guys need, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we say hunger takes no holiday, right? So the need is year-round. And going into the holidays, we want to make sure that all the seniors do feel the love from the community. So come in, sign up to volunteer, join the Feed a Neighbor Fund. Every little bit helps, and coming together as community is what's going to get us through this.
All right. Corey Morris, Director of Community Impact for Meals on Wheels Chicago. Thank you for taking the time, sir. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jake.
Of course. All right, guys, just about to wrap up the show. A couple of minutes left before we get to Fox 32 News at 4 with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. But for now, live look at our beautiful city. It is 3:51. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live, 3:54. Just a couple of minutes left before Fox 32 News at 4 kicks off with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. Lots coming up whenever they kick things off, just right downstairs. Quick recap of the show. We had a live image of the 85,000 plus rubber duckies splashing down into the Chicago River, all to raise funds, to raise awareness for Special Olympics Illinois, an amazing organization. If you didn't get the chance to see it, go to our Instagram at Fox 32 Chicago, go to our website, fox32chicago.com, and as always, go to Special Olympics. Their website is SOILL. It's like soil with an extra L. It's really an amazing organization that you're going to want to check out, and they do some really great things. Let's see, is Anita Blanton available? Is she chatting with us?
Hi, how are you?
Oh my God! It's like getting like a celebrity cameo on the show. I didn't even know this was a thing.
Hi.
I know that we're a very high tech organization, but I didn't.
It's a brand new world now.
Wait a second. Have you just been waiting on standby for the last 3 hours for me to call you onto the show?
No, but I'm here now. T's right there.
Whoa.
Yep. We're getting ready for the 4 o'clock.
Wait, does this mean like I'm a part of the 4 now?
Well, you're a part of the family all the time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This is great. I know you guys have so much coming up on the 4 o'clock. Can you tease what you guys are leading off with?
Listen, we have plenty of stories that we're working on for the 4 o'clock. I know you had to feel weird missing out on the Ducky Derby.
I know.
Today.
It's first time in a long time.
Oh, my gosh. You talk about celebrity appearances. You were like a mainstay at the Ducky Derby for so many years. But we also have a camera that's going over to After School Matters, volleyball. So I'm excited that we're able to get a camera over there. Got to talk about a few things that are a little on the more unsavory side, though. A Lockport smash and grab. Joni is on this story, and let me tell you, the video for it is just like, whoa. So you definitely need to see this video.
Was it the pizza place?
Oh my gosh, several places that had this to happen. And so if you think about how many businesses, how many business owners have been going through this lately, right? In the city, in the suburbs, something that so many of them can identify with. It's really caused a lot of hard times for many of them, because you have to wonder, like you were talking with Stephanie from Brown Sugar Bakery last week, like, what do you do? Do you use an insurance, adjustment for that, or do you just do it out of your pocket? You know, big questions there. And then Casey Cronus is on a card grading drama. They have big conventions for baseball cards, football cards. All the collectors come out, but when things go wrong, they go really far south.
You know what? You're good at this whole teasing thing. This is fantastic. Honestly, like, I'm just going to sit here and watch the show. Sounds great. Honestly, sold. Say less. Anita Blanton, thank you for joining us. Honestly, you've made a mistake by doing this, because now I'm just going to ask you to do it every time.
Well, listen, I might have to put a few more curls in my hair, so I don't know if I'm going to be here every day. No, I'm playing.
No, I got you.
Anytime you need me.
I appreciate it. Tell T we say hi. We'll see you in a couple of seconds.
Okay.
All right, guys, but that's it for us on Chicago Live. It is Thursday, August 6th. Thank you for joining us. I've been your host, Jake Hamilton. Fox 32 News at 4 starts right now.
Sale. Don't miss it. Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
A violent break-in leads to a chase in DuPage County. What happened between the moment police called it off and the arrest?
One of the defendants